At this moment, the wild wolf that Lin Siyuan had just healed ran up to Lin Shi. It howled a few times, and the Demon King translated for Lin Shi, Master. It says it wants to bring this boy along. It won't cause you any trouble, Master. This was the second time today that Lin Shi felt surprised. His mutant beasts were usually only affectionate towards him and absolutely hostile to anyone else. Yet, just because this boy had healed its wounds, Lin Shi finally agreed to let the wild wolf bring Lin Siyuan along. Riding this wolf means it'll run very fast. If you can't handle it halfway, I'll throw you off, Lin Shi muttered. Riding a wolf was no walk in the park. It would be incredibly bumpy, not to mention the bone-chilling wind. Lin Shi thought to himself that if this kid dared to cry even once, he'd toss him right off. Unexpectedly, along the way, Lin Siyuan completely defied Lin Shi's expectations. Lin Siyuan didn't cry or make a fuss. He clung tightly to the wild wolf, curling himself up in his clothes and covering his face completely, burying it into the wolf's fur. Afraid of falling off, he even pulled out a rope from who knows where and tied himself to the wolf. In this state, Lin Siyuan couldn't see anything around him, and Lin Shi just let him be. Since they had to clear the city step by step, they had to stop and rest for a bit every hour or two. This also gave Lin Siyuan a chance to catch his breath. Otherwise, as a 10-year-old kid, even being a Tier 2 evolver wouldn't be enough to endure it. When they stopped, Lin Shi stood waiting for the Demon King and the Mutant Beast Legion to clear out the monsters. Lin Siyuan rested beside Lin Shi, his body still tense on the wolf's back, trembling slightly from exhaustion. Lin Shi casually tossed him a piece of dried meat. Lin Siyuan happily caught it and said sweetly, "Thank you, uncle. You're so nice." Lin Shi couldn't care less about the kid handing out nice guy cards. He also took out a meat skewer for himself. He didn't bother correcting Lin Siyuan's form of address. Having lived 2 lifetimes, it was fine for this kid to call him uncle. It was just that this kid was so young, yet his eyesight wasn't very good. When the beast pack returned from their hunt, seeing the injured beasts, Lin Siyuan would take the initiative to help heal them. Lin Shi observed the entire process closely and noticed that whenever Lin Siyuan healed them, a faint, almost imperceptible layer of white light would appear on his hands, accompanied by a very weak fluctuation of origin power. This was somewhat similar to Lin Shi's ability to accelerate plant growth, except Lin Shi's ability only worked on plants, while Lin Siyuan's ability seemed to only work on living creatures. However, his origin power was too weak. Later, Lin Shi discovered that it wasn't just the healed beasts that grew close to Lin Siyuan. It seemed that beasts were naturally drawn to him. This was later confirmed by the Demon King. The Demon King told Lin Shi, "This human cub is very cute. When I get close to him, I don't want to hurt him. But if Master orders it, I'll still bite his head off." Lin Shi grew even more curious about Lin Siyuan. This kind of constitution was very strange. It didn't affect humans, only beasts. It was somewhat similar to the control ability of the Hualan giant panda race, but with a huge difference. Lin Siyuan couldn't control the beasts. He could only ensure he wouldn't be eaten by them. In theory, with this constitution, Lin Siyuan could practically roam freely in the apocalypse. Unfortunately, he was too weak. In the apocalypse, the thing you needed to be most careful of wasn't the beasts. It was humans. If he ran into bad people, even if they didn't kill him, they would keep him as a tool. No wonder Lin Siyuan had been locked up in that base before. When night fell, Lin Shi thought for a moment and still set up his safe house. He didn't do it in front of Lin Siyuan, but called him over after it was done. So weird. This room is amazing. Lin Siyuan's eyes lit up when he saw the safe house. Lin Shi led him inside and casually pointed to a room far from his own. "You sleep in this room tonight. Don't wander around at night, and don't come near my room, or I'll kill you." Lin Siyuan was completely awestruck by the safe house. He nodded repeatedly. Seeing the clean and warm room, he let out an excited cheer and dove onto the bed. Lin Shi placed Ji in the safe house and ordered, "Keep an eye on that kid. If he dares to come near my room, stop him and let me know." Lin Shi returned to his room to meditate. A peaceful night passed. Lin Siyuan slept soundly until Lin Shi woke him up, rubbing his eyes as he got out of bed. Lin Shi pushed Lin Siyuan outside, stored the safe house back into his spatial dimension, and set off with the mutant beasts to the next city. The journey continued like this: traveling, fighting, traveling, fighting. This cycle repeated for 3 days. Lin Siyuan had gotten used to the safe house appearing every night. He never asked Lin Shi how he created it. He was just very happy every night when he went to sleep, sleeping like a log until morning. However, that afternoon, Lin Shi encountered a rather powerful beast pack in this city, including a Tier 6 mutant beast, over 100 Tier 5s, and thousands of Tier 4s. This was a fully formed beast pack. This time, Lin Shi took action himself, telling Lin Siyuan to find a place to hide far away. After the battle, the mutant beast legion suffered casualties. A Tier 4 mutant monkey had died. The wild wolf that Lin Siyuan usually rode was severely injured, on the verge of death. Several other mutant beasts were also injured, but fortunately, they could still be saved. This outcome was already very good. Lin Shi checked the wild wolf. Its main artery was severed, a chunk of its leg was bitten off, and its abdomen was heavily wounded, with its organs spilling out. With this kind of injury, even gene medicine couldn't save it. The wild wolf seemed to know its fate, lying weakly on the snow, its eyes filled with pain. There was an unspoken rule in the mutant beast legion. If a mutant beast was too heavily injured to be saved, Lin Shi would personally send them off to end their suffering, then bury their bodies deep in the ground to prevent other beasts from digging them up and eating them. Death is a common occurrence, and Lin Shi had long grown used to it. Even if the wild wolf died, seeing how obedient Lin Siyuan was, and with their destination so close, he wouldn't mind letting the other origin beasts carry the boy for another 2 days. But today was different. Lin Siyuan, whose face was usually bright, was kneeling over the wild wolf's body, refusing to leave. He tried to heal it while crying his eyes out. "Please, get better. Don't die. Please." Lin Siyuan's origin power was too weak. It obviously wasn't enough to treat this kind of injury. Throughout their journey, Lin Shi had never seen the boy cry, so he didn't know how to cry after all. Seeing this, Lin Shi didn't force him. Over the past few days, Lin Siyuan had grown very close to the wild wolf. For a child, watching it die right in front of him was truly cruel. The wild wolf's eyes held nothing but a will to survive and a lingering attachment to life. Lin Shi couldn't save it. He simply turned away to check the injuries of the other origin beasts. When Lin Shi returned, the wild wolf was on its last breath. Lin Siyuan tried desperately to heal it, but he couldn't stop the light from fading from its eyes. Seeing the wolf taking its final breaths, he stubbornly persisted. "Don't die. Don't die. I won't let you die." Lin Shi was about to step forward and pull Lin Siyuan away. Just as he reached out, something unexpected happened. A blinding white light erupted from Lin Siyuan's hands. To Lin Shi's absolute shock, the wild wolf's injuries began to heal rapidly, like a miracle. Tiny buds of flesh sprouted from the severed arteries, quickly reconnecting with the torn blood vessels. The shredded skin and flesh rapidly regenerated. Even the wild wolf's shattered leg bones miraculously mended themselves. Lin Shi reacted instantly. Moving at lightning speed, he rushed to the wild wolf and shoved its spilled organs back into its stomach. Then, he watched as the gaping wound on its belly swiftly closed up. The entire process took about 5 minutes. When the light faded from Lin Siyuan's hands, he collapsed. Lin Shi quickly caught the boy's small body, realizing he was even lighter than he had imagined. The baggy clothes hid Lin Siyuan's figure, but underneath, he was as skinny as a walking skeleton. With a body like this, how did he manage to endure the long journey over the past few days? Lin Shi frowned. The wild wolf's injuries were almost completely healed. Only a few faint red marks remained on its belly and elsewhere, the only proof that the wounds had ever existed. The wild wolf shook its head and stood up. It coughed up a few clumps of dark red blood, which Lin Shi recognized as internal blood clots. The wolf walked over to Lin Shi and gently nuzzled Lin Siyuan, who was resting in his arms. "He's fine." Lin Shi had already checked. Lin Siyuan was just unconscious, completely drained of physical and mental energy. It was nothing to worry about, but he wouldn't wake up anytime soon. After clearing the battlefield, since Lin Siyuan was out cold and most of the origin beasts were injured, Lin Shi stored them in his spatial dimension, leaving only Demon King outside. He held Lin Siyuan in his arms, hopped onto his snowboard, and continued toward the next city. The frail boy lay against Lin Shi, light as a feather. The next city was quite deserted, probably because the origin beasts from the previous city had migrated here. There were only a few low-tier origin beasts, which Lin Shi left for Demon King to handle. He carefully cleaned up a room and laid Lin Siyuan on the bed. A few days ago, when he first brought the boy back, he had given him a proper bath. His pale, gaunt little face showed signs of long-term malnutrition. Stripping off the thick layers of clothes, his body was indeed as skinny as Lin Shi had guessed. Initially, he had planned to drop Lin Siyuan off somewhere nearby and let him find his own way home. But now, Lin Shi had to change his mind. Today, Lin Siyuan's ability had proven to be truly extraordinary. Mending broken bones, bringing the dead back to life, regrowing flesh from bone. At just Tier 2, he had managed to save a dying Tier 4 origin beast. That afternoon, Lin Shi observed further. The wild wolf was only slightly weak. Everything else was completely normal. Even though Lin Siyuan was exhausted and unconscious now, what if he leveled up? Even someone as strong as Lin Shi couldn't guarantee he'd never face danger. Keeping Lin Siyuan around was basically having an extra lifeline. Moreover, he felt the boy had an even more important use. He wanted to use Lin Siyuan, but that required the boy's consent. Lin Shi took out a few gene pills from his spatial dimension, crushed them into powder, mixed them with water, and slowly fed the mixture to Lin Siyuan. After drinking it, Lin Siyuan's complexion noticeably improved. This kid's health was way too fragile. This time in particular, it seemed to have drained all his potential. He was so frail and terrifyingly pale, looking like he could drop dead at any moment if not careful. If he wanted to use that ability in the future, he had to nurse the boy back to health first. Lin Shi took out some freshly hunted beast meat and a bit of wheat from his spatial dimension, tossed them into a pot, and started making porridge. Once the porridge was done, Lin Shi fed it to Lin Siyuan spoonful by spoonful. He was more patient now than he had ever been. After feeding him, Lin Shi let Ji out to keep an eye on the boy. Lin Shi returned to his room, ready for a good night's sleep. No need to meditate today. That's right, his spiritual power had reached the threshold for a breakthrough. But right now, too many origin beasts in his spatial dimension were injured. Lin Siyuan still hadn't woken up, so he couldn't completely focus on his breakthrough with peace of mind. Every advancement brought unpredictable changes, and there was no telling how long it would take. Just like the previous times, he had to prepare thoroughly. The next day, Lin Siyuan was still unconscious. Lin Shi cooked meat porridge for him again, carefully fed him, and then began checking on the recovery of the origin beasts. A night had passed, and most of the origin beasts had recovered well. A few with more severe injuries would probably need a few more days to fully heal. Lin Shi summoned Demon King, Long-Armed Ape, Clouded Leopard, Xiaobai, and Tyrant, instructing them about his upcoming breakthrough. Demon King would personally stand guard as usual. The Wolf Pack guards the Demon King. The Clouded Leopard and the Gibbon are in charge of clearing nearby threats and daily patrols. Xiaobai and Tyrant are responsible for maintaining order among the other origin beasts in the space. Next is preparing food for them. I need at least a 3-month supply in this space. I also need to find a place to store food for the Demon King and the others. After getting everything settled, I saw that Lin Siyuan still hadn't woken up. I ordered the Clouded Leopard, the Gibbon, and their subordinates to scout the surrounding cities for any major threats and eliminate them immediately. Lin Siyuan was unconscious in the safe room for 3 days and nights before finally waking up. Lin Shi fed him high-energy meat porridge every day. When he woke up, Lin Siyuan's face looked much healthier, though he was still a bit dazed. Where am I? Seeing Lin Shi, he immediately asked about the wild wolf's condition. Answer one question for me first. That ability, was that your first time using it? Lin Shi asked. It was the second time. Once, I saw a lady who was kind to me about to die, so I used it. But it doesn't always work. When I tried to heal a bad person, it failed. Lin Siyuan answered carefully. This answer was exactly what Lin Shi expected. Don't use that power so recklessly next time. That wild wolf was saved by you. It's doing great now. You, on the other hand, almost died. Was it worth it for a beast you only knew for 3 days? If you died, you'd never make it home. Lin Shi spoke harshly on purpose to see how Lin Siyuan would respond. I need to go see him. Lin Siyuan was overjoyed to hear the wolf was okay. As for whether it was worth it, He didn't seem to care at all. His reaction gave Lin Shi the answer he needed. He's right outside. There's something I need to tell you. I have to leave for a while. You stay here and don't wander off. If something happens, I won't be able to look after you, Lin Shi said seriously. After giving Li Siyuan strict instructions, Lin Shi let Hua Hua out to stay in the safe room. Hua Hua was smart enough to take care of him. Lin Shi also prepared plenty of food for Li Siyuan inside. At this point, the safe room's defenses didn't matter much to Lin Shi. He chose to undergo his advancement underground, directly beneath the safe room. Lin Siyuan didn't know the details. Lin Shi only told him he'd be out for a bit. He left the Demon King and the others to protect Li Siyuan. On the surface, they were guarding the safe room, but they were actually protecting Lin Shi underground. Hua Hua stayed in the safe room, while Chi Chi was given a different task. Both would use their mental power to scan the surroundings constantly, ensuring no one approached Lin Shi. Once everything was ready and night fell, Lin Siyuan fell into a deep sleep. Lin Shi went down to the basement and locked the hatch. He had reinforced this basement after the apocalypse, but the defense system was a bit weak now. It wouldn't hold out long against a rank 5 origin beast. Chi Chi dug a tunnel just outside the basement's defensive layer. If danger came from underground, Chi Chi would immediately signal the gibbon and clouded leopard to dig down and help. Burrowing beasts were rare, so most threats would come from the surface. The surrounding city had been cleared of major threats, so nothing unexpected should happen. Lin Shi was simply used to being thorough. Before starting his advancement, he took out a phone-like device and sent a message to Lin Tianrui. The message said he needed to rest for a while and would head to the Americas afterward. This was a communication device made from special materials researched by the official base. Over the past 2 years, Lin Tianrui's side hadn't been idle either. They hadn't just cleared the origin beasts within the Xia country. They had also started hunting them in the opposite direction of Lin Shi's route. The King base had remained quiet for these 2 years, refusing to cooperate with the official base. After that incident, the King base paid compensation and returned the icebreaker, then cut off all contact. In contrast, another hidden family, the Liu, came from East China to propose a partnership with the official base. Currently, the Liu's influence was growing rapidly in the Middle East, rivaling the official base of Xia country. With another power helping out, the work was moving much faster than when Lin Shi was alone. The origin beasts were still breeding quickly. New ones needed time to evolve, but the problem was their evolution speed was terrifying. Both the official side and the Li family had suffered casualties over the last 2 years, making them take the issue even more seriously. The last hidden family was the Chen family, located in the Americas, the former territory of the Lighthouse Nation. Lin Tianrui still hadn't been able to contact them. Everyone sent to make contact had vanished. It could be the distance, or they were killed by high-level origin beasts along the way. After 2 failures, Lin Tianrui stopped sending people and eventually gave the task to Lin Shi, asking him to find their leader if he passed through. Lin Shi's next target was the Americas, which was also where Lin Siyuan needed to go. After Lin Shi's message was sent, it took about half an hour for Lin Tianrui to receive a reply. It wasn't that Lin Tianrui was too busy. The device simply had a slow transmission speed. Given the lack of satellites and signal towers, global communication was already a miracle. Lin Shi took a golden fruit from his storage space and took a bite. The advancement began. Meanwhile, on Australia Island, the once mighty King base had entered a period of seclusion after their heavy losses 2 years ago. Especially after the official base nurtured a rank 5 evolved human a year ago, even the rebels within the King base had quietly returned. The arrogance the King base displayed 2 years ago was completely gone. The current leader wasn't Wang Tianyuan, but Boss Wang. Boss Wang, who used to be Wang Tianyuan's right-hand man, listened to his confidence report on the official base and the Li family. Boss, the Li family and Lin Tianrui are fighting hard right now, going everywhere to wipe out origin beasts. Those fools still think they're saving the world. The beasts are getting harder to kill, and their daily casualties are significant. It's pathetic. Boss Wang sneered. For the past 2 years, Wang Tianyuan had done nothing but focus on his secluded cultivation. Neither the official base nor the Li family had a rank 6 evolved human yet. Once the Lord reaches rank 6, I'll be invincible. Let them keep playing hero. By the way, Didn't the old man from the Li family find a high-level mutant plant recently? Does he think he can reach rank 6 too? Boss, the Li family went to the Chun family's territory to dig it up. He thought Chen Lin was a pushover. In the end, all the Li family members were slaughtered. That plant never reached his hands. I heard the old man was so angry he's on his deathbed. Now, a kid named Li Chun is running the Li family. Boss Wong pondered. Li Chun is young, but he reached rank 5 last year. He's likely the future heir. This Li Chun is very close to the official base. A wet behind-the-ears brat wanting to cooperate with the government. So what if they have 2 rank 5s? Once the Lord finishes his seclusion and becomes a rank 6 powerhouse, 2 rank 5s won't be able to stop him. You're absolutely right, boss. You're brilliant. The subordinate flattered him skillfully. Get out. Keep monitoring the situation. Yes, boss. Just then, someone rushed in. Boss. Boss. The Lord has finished his seclusion. Hurry. The subordinate was practically stuttering with excitement. Boss Wong stood up abruptly, still in disbelief. The Lord is out. A gust of wind blew past, and in an instant, Boss Wong vanished from the room. Outside Wang Tianyuan's meditation chamber, the heavy door was wide open. Wang Tianyuan stood in the clearing, hands behind his back, looking up at the sky. His aura was so overwhelming that others were forced back over 10 meters, some even falling to the ground in fear. Wang Tianyuan pointed casually at one of them. Stand up and tell me. What has happened in the world while I was away? He moved fast. As soon as he emerged, Wang Tianyuan took stock of the global situation. He immediately began gathering the Wang family forces, preparing for a reckoning with the official base. Back in the Wang family hall, he looked down at his commanders with cold authority. The Wang family is not to be trifled with. They took back the icebreaker, so now, we'll make them cough up the entire base along with it. Boss Wang reminded him, Lord, the one we need to be most wary of is Lin Shi. He killed many of our brothers. Should we deal with him first? 2 years ago, Lin Shi's name was known throughout the Fong family. Wang Tianyuan looked displeased as he toyed with a metal sphere in his hand. Humph. A brat who hides his face. What's there to fear? Whether he's in the city or not, I'll deal with him. His voice boomed with unprecedented confidence. The members of the Wang family nodded in unison, though a few still looked worried. The strength of the Liu family is beyond your imagination, Wang Tianyuan said, full of vitality. He looked like a man in his 20s. Seeing that some were still anxious, he snorted and waved his hand. A great sword nearby flew out of its scabbard, circling rapidly above everyone's heads. A sharp, killing intent radiated from the blade. Someone gasped, is this telekinesis? Wang Tianyuan laughed loudly, stood up, and tossed the metal sphere into the air. In a flash, the sword sliced the sphere in half, sending it crashing to the floor. With a flick of his finger, the sword flew perfectly back into its scabbard. No one could stay calm after seeing such inhuman power. The entire Wang family was stunned. They thought to themselves that he truly was the strongest of their generation. This is the power of rank 6. I call it sword kinesis. Every rank 6 awakened has a different ability. Long-range attack powers are rare. Our ancestors could only control water, but I can manipulate objects from a distance within the range of my mental power. No ordinary rank 6 can match me. Wang Tianyuan calmly explained his power to his subordinates. This ability only works on metal and has a limit on how many objects he can control. Currently, he could only handle one, but he knew that wasn't his limit. Once he mastered it, he could control at least 2 weapons at once. The hall erupted in cheers. Long live the Lord. Only a god could do this. Who does Lin Shi think he is? Wang Tianyuan sat high on his throne, smiling with satisfaction, but he didn't let power cloud his judgment. Lin Shi is indeed a major threat, but he's not in the city right now, so he's no immediate danger. He's only working with the government. Once I seize the government, I'll offer him better terms to work for me. Wang Tianyuan didn't finish his thought. Whether he'd actually work with Lin Shi depended on the man's skill. If given the chance, he would definitely kill Lin Shi to avenge his men. Afterward, the Wang family began busy preparations for war. 3 days later, at the distant official base, Lin Tianrui received news from the Wang family. They were planning to send scouts to the base. Did they really think he wouldn't have spies in the Wang family? Lin Tianrui knew Wang Tianyuan's emergence was bad news. He immediately tried to contact Lin Shi to see if he could return, but the message went unanswered. Lin Tianrui grew anxious, worried that something had happened to Lin Shi. Elsewhere, Li Chun was also keeping a close eye on the Wang family. Li Chun was much more formidable than he was 2 years ago. The innocent, harmless look on his face had been replaced by the cold authority of a family head. He sat by Li Hongli's bed, feeding him medicine spoonful by spoonful. He looked like a filial grandson, but his expression was full of mockery and calculation. Li Hongli lay motionless, staring at Li Chun with eyes full of hatred, as if looking at a mortal enemy. He clenched his teeth, refusing to swallow a single drop. The medicine trickled down his chin, soaking his collar and chest, but Li Chun didn't stop. He didn't pause for a second. "Grandfather, I heard Wang Tianyuan has finished his seclusion. Do you think he reached rank 6? It looks like our peaceful days are over." Li Hongli's cloudy eyes suddenly bulged with even more malice. His body twitched slightly. He was paralyzed, his limbs no longer obeying him. As if guessing what the old man wanted to say, Li Chun continued, "Grandfather, even if you reached rank 6, you'd be no match for Wang Tianyuan. He broke through in his prime, while you're at the end of your rope. How could you compare? Why waste those precious mutant plants? Just step aside for me. I will lead the Li family to a bright future." Without waiting for a reply, Li Chun went on, "I'm cooperating with the government, you know. That powerhouse I told you about? Turns out he's good friends with the base leader. In my opinion, even if Wang Tianyuan is strong, he's nothing compared to that man. If Wang Tianyuan tries to attack the base now, the Wang family is finished. When that happens, only the Li and Qin families will be left among the 4 hidden clans." Li Chun set the bowl down and stood up. "I'm going to give Lin Tianrui a hand this time. If that man returns and sees how helpful I've been, he'll definitely see me in a new light. Then I won't have to worry about the Li family's growth. Didn't you always want us to be the only hidden family left? I'm about to make your wish come true. You can die without regrets now. Go on, have a good sleep. In your next life, try to die a bit sooner. Don't rack up so much bad karma. Growing old without dying is a sin in itself." Li Chun tucked the blanket around Li Hongli, covering his wet chest, and walked out. Li Hongli was left staring at the door, his old eyes filled with resentment, his body trembling. Back with Lin Siyuan, the wind had been howling for days. The freezing gale outside swept up thick snow, leaving nothing but the sound of the storm and a world of white. The Demon King stood guard at the door, alert and watchful, not daring to relax for a moment. Inside, Lin Siyuan was comfortably curled up with a tablet watching cartoons, munching on meat with a satisfied look. Hua Hua was stretched out on the sofa nearby, resting with eyes closed. This was where Lin Shi usually sat. Suddenly, the power cut out. In the darkness, only the faint glow of the screen remained. "The power's out. Hey, kitty, my love." Lin Siyuan called out. Hua Hua stretched lazily, knowing the generator had run out of fuel. It was about to go turn on the backup generator, but before it could leave the living room, the lights flickered back on. Hua Hua's lazy eyes sharpened. "Look, kitty, the power's back." Lin Siyuan's eyes went wide with curiosity, not understanding what was happening. Thinking it was just a glitch that fixed itself, he went back to his cartoons. Only Hua Hua walked into the living room and stared toward the basement. A moment later, a faint click of a lock echoed from below, almost inaudible. Then the hatch opened automatically. Seconds later, Lin Shi emerged. "You're back?" "Yeah." Lin Shi walked over and stroked Hua Hua's head. Hua Hua looked him up and down a few times, rubbed against his leg, and let out a soft meow. Just then, a kitchen cabinet opened on its own. A jar of dried tea leaves flew out, the lid popped open, and a few leaves fell into a tea tray, arranging themselves neatly in a cup. Next, the electric kettle on the stove flew over, poured water into the pot, and with a beep, started boiling. Hua Hua's eyes went wide with shock and disbelief. Lin Shi even noticed a hint of terror in its dazed expression. He picked Hua Hua up, petting it to calm it down. "Don't be afraid. This is my power." This was Lin Shi's new ability after reaching rank 7, an upgraded version of telekinesis. To be precise, his power had a new name. Subject data, Lin Shi. Age, 22. Evolution level, rank 7 genetic lock. Internal origin force, units. Mental power, units. Abilities, plant growth acceleration, universal manipulation. At rank 6, he could only control simple objects. Although he could do it over a wide area, his precision was low. But now, it was universal manipulation. As long as it was within his mental range, he could control anything with a thought. The closer the object, the higher the precision. As the distance increased, precision would drop. He hadn't fully tested his limits yet, but he knew he could control anything within dozens of meters as easily as his own limbs. For example, when he first woke up and realized the generator was out of fuel, he thought about turning on the backup. With just a thought, he realized he could use his mental power to start the engine. The tea-making scene was also Lin Shi testing his new powers. Realizing the Demon King and the others were still outside, he pulled all the beasts, including the Demon King, back into his private space. He left them a message and rewarded them with some high-level beast meat. The Demon King and the others knew Lin Shi had finished his advancement. After eating their fill, they went back to their dens for a good sleep. When Lin Shi entered the living room, Lin Siyuan was still so absorbed in his cartoons that he didn't notice. It wasn't until Lin Shi sat on the sofa and cleared his throat that Lin Siyuan jumped. "Uncle, you're back." He dropped the remote and ran to Lin Shi, grabbing his sleeve. After a few days, Lin Siyuan's complexion was much better. His stick-thin arms and hollow face were starting to fill out. Seeing the room was still neat and tidy, Lin Shi knew the boy had been cleaning. He reached out and patted Lin Siyuan's head. "I'm back." Just then, the water in the kitchen finished boiling. The kettle rose into the air on its own. It tilted, pouring the boiling water precisely into the teacup where the leaves were waiting. Once the tea reached the perfect strength, the kettle flew back to its spot. The teacup then floated toward Lin Siyuan, hovering beside him as if resting on an invisible table. "Whoa, uncle! The teacup is flying." Witnessing this for the first time, Lin Siyuan's jaw dropped. "It's my ability. Just like your healing power, it's just an ability. Do you want your power to get stronger?" After completing his advancement, Lin Shi started thinking about keeping Lin Siyuan around. Lin Siyuan tilted his head, seemingly deep in thought. After a moment, he spoke up. "You can help me get stronger? What do you need me to do?" He really was a child who had survived 3 years of the apocalypse. Despite his innocent look, he understood the rules of this world. He knew nothing was given for free. Lin Shi didn't use a patronizing tone. He pulled the boy down onto the sofa to talk as equals. "I do have a condition. If you're willing to follow me and use your power to help me, I'll help you increase your strength quickly so you can survive in this world." Just like these past few days. Lin Siyuan didn't answer immediately. He lowered his head, his long, uncut bangs hiding his eyes. After a long silence, he looked up and asked anxiously, "You don't want me to go home? Like the people at the last base?" Lin Shi realized the boy had misunderstood. "I'll help you find your home first. If your family is there, you can decide then if you want to follow me. It's been 3 years. Your old home is likely buried in snow, and your family might not be there anymore." That's why Lin Shi said it that way. Hearing that he wouldn't be forced to stay, Lin Siyuan breathed a sigh of relief. He said firmly, "If I don't have a home anymore, and my parents are gone, I'm willing to follow you." "Good. I'll help you look for your home soon. Think it over for a few days, and then give me your answer." Lin Shi picked up his tea and drained it. The cup flew back to the kitchen. Immediately after, a glass of juice appeared out of nowhere. Lin Shi handed it to Lin Siyuan. "I'm going out for a bit. I'll be right back." Lin Siyuan took the juice obediently and nodded. "Thank you, uncle." Lin Shi stepped out of the safe room and pulled his massive kite wheel from his space. Before, when he used the flying board at low altitudes, it was a bit unstable. He had to rely entirely on his physical strength to keep his balance. Because of that, he couldn't go much faster than he could on a regular snowboard. But now, after reaching rank 7, his control over objects was on a different level. He pulled out his heaviest weapon. The massive kite wheel hovered steadily at his feet. He stepped onto it and did a few low-altitude laps. Once he adjusted, Lin Shi's eyes sharpened. The kite wheel tilted and shot into the sky. The wide wheel sliced through the thick fog, carrying Lin Shi high into the air. This speed was faster than a pre-apocalypse airplane. His footing was rock solid. Even as he moved, it felt like he was just gliding. Lin Shi even discovered he could use his mind to block the fierce wind from hitting his face. This level of control was incredible. If I had a great sword under my feet, I'd look like a legendary immortal, he thought. If the stories of flying immortals in ancient Xia were true, could they have been rank 7 evolved humans controlling flying objects? The more he thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. Perhaps future evolved humans would be deified by people of the past. The feeling of flying was exhilarating and entirely new. After about a minute of flying above the clouds, Lin Shi landed safely. He pulled the kite wheel back into his space with a grin. Then he remembered something and took out his communication device. He wanted to see how Lin Tianrui was doing. He opened it to find over a dozen unread messages. The first one was from 8 days ago. Brother Lin, the King base sent a rank 6 evolved human. They're preparing to attack us. Are you free? Please come back and help us hold them off. The enemy is fierce. If you help us this time, I'll make it worth your while. Lin Shi frowned. The King base. He'd known they were trouble from the start. But back then, Lin Tianrui wanted to cooperate with them, so he couldn't just go wipe them out. The debt from 2 years ago had finally become a problem. Lin Shi's advancement was fast, but it still took 9 days. He didn't know the current state of the base. It was thousands of miles to the city. Normally, it would take a long time to get back, even at top speed. But now that he could fly, he could definitely make it back today. Lin Shi didn't hesitate. He brought out the kite wheel again and called Lin Siyuan out of the safe room. As soon as the boy appeared, Lin Shi stored the safe room back into his space. Lin Siyuan stared, looking like he wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but didn't dare. Finally, his childish curiosity won out. Is this your power too, uncle? Yes. Get on. We have to go. I'll hold on to you. Don't scream, and don't be afraid. I won't let you fall. Lin Siyuan was still in awe of Lin Shi's superhuman abilities. His respect for Lin Shi was like a surging river, unstoppable and overwhelming. His large eyes were full of worship. Not understanding the limits of an evolved human's power, Lin Siyuan naturally trusted Lin Shi completely. In his state of shock and admiration, he barely heard Lin Shi's warning before being pulled onto the kite wheel. A moment later, the wheel shot into the sky. Lin Siyuan let out a terrified scream, which Lin Shi quickly muffled with a frown. Lin Siyuan remembered the warning and covered his own mouth. He looked at Lin Shi apologetically. Then, he accidentally looked down. His head spun, and he almost fell off. Lin Shi caught him quickly. Don't look down. Look straight ahead. Lin Siyuan obeyed and soon got used to it. Before long, he started to enjoy this new, thrilling way of traveling. Kids really do adapt fast. Soon, Lin Siyuan was asking questions excitedly. Uncle, are we standing on a giant axe? Why does it have 2 sides? Oh, and a point too. Uncle, you're actually an immortal, aren't you? This thing we're standing on is your magical treasure. It's just like the immortals riding swords on TV. Uncle, did you come down from heaven on a mission to save humanity? Along the way, Lin Siyuan chattered nonstop, like a broken record. These carefree days had finally let his suppressed childhood spirit come out. Lin Shi didn't answer. He took out a map and used his mental power to fix their direction, holding Lin Siyuan steady as they flew. This time, Lin Shi was intentionally showing off his strength. He wanted the boy to know that following him was the right choice. As for the existence of his space, well, now that he could fly on a kite, the space could just be seen as another special ability. Besides, who could say for sure? The Great Freeze had nearly wiped out all flying origin beasts. Flying through the sky was easy. In just over an hour, the Xia country territory appeared. It was faster than Lin Shi expected. I hope I'm in time. What did you say, uncle? Meanwhile, in the city, 3 days ago, Wang Tianyuan had indeed led the King base forces near the official base. They set up a temporary camp, building snow houses to hide from the cold. Wang Tianyuan's goal was clear, and his attitude was iron-fisted. If Lin Tianrui handed over control of the base, he'd spare his men. If not, the sword has no eyes, and life and death would be decided by the sun. Lin Tianrui, of course, refused. On the first day of battle, Lin Tianrui stood on the walls in a standoff with Wang Tianyuan. He was nearly killed by a sneak attack from Wang Tianyuan's sword kinesis. Fortunately, Wang Chao risked his life to block the fatal blow. After that, Lin Tianrui stayed in the rear and stopped taking risks. On the second day, Wang Tianyuan coordinated with others from the Wang family. Using his sword kinesis, he nearly took the outer city. How could a few rank 4 stop a rank 6 evolved human? In the nick of time, Li Chun arrived with more than half of the Li family's evolved humans, attacking the Wang family from two sides alongside the official base. At the decisive moment, Wang Tianyuan tried to kill Li Chun but was ambushed by a spy Lin Tianrui had planted. The spy used a toxin that paralyzed his origin force. Caught off guard, he was heavily injured. The Wang family's evolved humans also took heavy losses from the combined forces. Clearly, this was a trap set by the Li family and the government. However, they had underestimated the power of a rank 6. Wang Tianyuan recovered quickly and led the remnants of his forces in a retreat. Now, it was the third day, and the Wang family hadn't attacked again. Lord, the Li family has gone mad. They're determined to oppose us. We took heavy losses yesterday. If we keep attacking, even if we win, the Wang family will be crippled. Wang Tianyuan sat in the temporary snow house, his face grim. The aura around him was colder than the surrounding air. We could have taken the base yesterday. It's all because that damn Li Chun interfered. There's 1 hour until dark. Tonight, I'll sneak into the base and kill both Lin Tianrui and Li Chun. Without their leaders, the base will collapse. Wang Tianyuan hissed. He had his plan ready. All he had to do was wait for nightfall. When it came, he quietly left the camp and vanished into the darkness. The Wang family elders and Boss Wang's group watched him go. Their expressions varied. The official base hasn't made a move all day. It feels a bit strange. Will the Lord's mission be successful? Against a bunch of chicks, a great beast struggle is futile. With the Lord's skill and power, just as he said, no one in the base will even notice him. Exactly. Their strongest is only rank 5. And the one under Lin Tianrui was crippled by the Lord on the first day. Only that brat Li Chun is left. He's nothing. The Lord is the first rank 6 in our family in 1,000 years to master a long-range attack. We have to have faith. Yes, the Lord's sword kinesis is godlike. His movements will be impossible to track. Even if he's spotted, as long as he's careful of that poison powder, he'll be fine. The Lord is risking himself to save our clansmen's lives. We must never forget this day. This battle, the Wang family will surely win. Inside the official base, in the underground shelter of the Scientific Research Institute, 20 meters down, the lights were blazing. This shelter had been built over the last 2 years. It held a massive amount of the base's supplies and was designed to withstand rank 6 or even stronger origin beasts in an emergency. Not only could it block mental power, but its defensive capabilities were staggering. The walls alone were over 10 meters thick, reinforced with various super-durable metals and special mineral blends. Inside, it didn't just store supplies. It had a water recycling system that could sustain tens of thousands of people for a year. It was the strongest, most impenetrable place in the entire base. Right now, all the researchers from the institute were being moved here. This included core personnel who held power but weren't strong fighters, technical staff with special skills, all the base's children, women, youths under 20, young soldiers, and promising evolved humans. Even those heavily injured in the battle against the Wang family were here. Wang Chao, who had been ambushed by Wang Tianyuan while protecting Lin Tianrui, was also moved into the shelter. Qin Shuang, I'm leaving this place to you. And Wang Chao as well. Lin Tianrui stood at the shelter door, speaking to Qin Shuang with deep sincerity. He said he was leaving it to her, but it was really a final entrustment. Both knew this was a goodbye. They might never see each other again. Qin Shuang bit her lip, tears welling up. Commander, I understand. I'll do my best to carry out everything you've assigned. I have faith in you. From the first time I met you, I knew you were capable of great things. Your eyes remind me a lot of my brother, Lin Jie. I trust you with these people. There won't be any problems. 2 years had passed, and Qin Shuang was no longer the naive girl she once was. She was now calm, steady, and mature. Only when she heard Lin Shi's name did a different light flicker in her eyes. Once Commander Wang Chao wakes up, I'll do everything I can to assist him. I won't let you down. Good. Tell him not to blame me. Lin Tianrui sighed and patted her shoulder. Lock the door. Lin Tianrui left the hideout. Behind him, the heavy door slowly groaned shut. Back on the surface, Li Chun and his men were waiting. Commander Lin, is everything ready? Li Chun's face was grim. Yes, it's done. All right, let's go. Into the tunnel. Lin Tianrui ordered. He, Li Chun and the others headed to a secret underground entrance. It was a newly dug tunnel, barely wide enough for a person and about 10 meters deep. Only they knew this tunnel led directly out of the headquarters. Everyone was ready. The life-or-death battle was about to begin. Lin Tianrui and the others hadn't been idle all day. They, along with the high-level evolved humans Li Chun brought, had dug a tunnel leading to the outer city. The plan was to use the cover of night to ambush the Wang family camp. A rank SIXS mental power would easily spot them on the surface, but the chances were much lower underground. Due to the resistance of earth and rock and the low risk of burrowing threats, evolved humans rarely used their mental power to skin deep underground for long. They were betting on this weakness, but it wasn't a sure thing. They were gambling that they wouldn't be detected underground and that they'd be fast enough that the Wang family couldn't react. Even if they were caught, there was no turning back. This time, either the Wang family fell or they died. Against Wang Tianyuan, a rank 6, the Wang family was nearly invincible. They could only risk everything for a chance at survival. Make sure we have enough poison. There can be no mistakes. We must kill that old bastard Wang Tianyuan, Lin Tianrui said. The officers beside him all looked ready to die. Family Headley, you should head out through the back gate. This is our base's fight. We'll surely repay you in the future. Li Chun coming to help was already a huge favor. Lin Tianrui didn't expect him to die with them. The fact that he stayed to help dig the tunnel was a risky investment in the government. Li Chun bowed to Lin Tianrui. Commander Lin, please be careful. I hope for a successful mission. Come back safe. Lin Tianrui nodded firmly, though he knew his chances were slim. Family Headley, you should leave now. Li Chun sighed with regret. If only that brother Lin you mentioned were here. He could surely handle Wang Tianyuan. Lin Tianrui gave a bitter smile. This is our base's fate. Brother Lin has more important things to do. If we fail, and you see him again, you can cooperate with him. He's very strong and reliable. Thinking of this, Lin Tianrui took out the communication device and gave it to Li Chun, showing him how to use it. Li Chun was secretly thrilled, but he kept his face calm. This was exactly what he wanted. To establish a deeper relationship with Lin Shi, he accepted it solemnly. Just then, the device lit up. A short message appeared on the screen. I'm coming back. Lin Tianrui, are you still alive? The simple message appeared on the screen. This primitive device didn't have passwords. Messages displayed immediately. Both Lin Tianrui and Li Chun froze. Lin Tianrui quickly snatched the device back and typed frantically. Brother Lin, where are you? I'm in deep trouble and need your help. The transmission speed depended on distance. The closer they were, the faster it was. If Lin Shi still took half an hour to reply, Lin Tianrui would be in despair. He gripped the device, heart racing. He ordered his men to stand by, waiting for a reply. Li Chun looked at his empty hand, then at Lin Tianrui's frantic face, and immediately guessed who it was. Commander Lin, is it that brother Lin? Yes, it's him. Hearing that Lin Shi was returning, Lin Tianrui's despair eased slightly. Even if he died today, as long as Lin Shi returned, Qin Shuang and the others in the shelter, along with the soldiers, would be safe. A few minutes later, the device lit up again. Yeah, don't panic. I'm at location. I'll be back soon. Just hold on a little longer. The tone was incredibly calm. The location Lin Shi gave was still 1,000 miles away. Lin Tianrui smiled bitterly. He sent one last message. Take your time then. Based on the reply time, Lin Tianrui estimated Lin Shi was over 1,000 kilometers away. At that speed, it would still take a few hours. It was good news, but tonight's plan had to be postponed. As long as Lin Shi returned, the outcome of this war was still uncertain. But while Lin Tianrui decided not to attack, the Wang family hadn't given up. Wang Tianyuan reached the outer city only to find that getting into the inner city wasn't just about avoiding mental scans. The base had pre-apocalypse military scanners and special post-apocalypse detectors. Getting in undetected was nearly impossible, and if he was spotted, the ambush was pointless. Wang Tianyuan was fuming. He, a great family head and rank 6 powerhouse, had come to assassinate them and was stuck at the front door. Damn this base. Once inside the outer city, he realized there were hardly any guards. Turning his frustration into action, he immediately contacted his men outside to launch a night assault. Just as Lin Tianrui was deciding his next move, he heard a soldier shouting from the tunnel. "Commander, it's bad. The Wang family is attacking." Lin Tianrui's heart sank. A night attack. They'd have to face them head-on. But Li Chun and his men were about to leave. With the base's current strength, they couldn't hold out for long. Lin Tianrui sighed. He weighed his options: ambush them from the tunnel behind their lines, or defend the front. Both had risks. Meanwhile, Li Chun's confidant saw his leader waiting for Lin Tianrui to finish his messages before taking the device back to leave. The men exchanged confused looks. Helping the base against the Wang family was already unexpected for everyone in the Li family. Li Chun had offended another family that possessed a rank 6 evolved human just to help the government, which seemed like a thankless task. No one in the Li family understood. Many elders had fiercely opposed sending help, but Li Chun ignored them. He brought his inner circle to the base and nearly killed Wang Tianyuan. Back then, the blade was only centimeters from Wang Tianyuan's head, but that gap was an abyss. The plan failed. After yesterday's battle, they should have retreated for their own safety. Yet Li Chun insisted on digging a tunnel to help Lin Tianrui. He was risking his life. No one knew exactly how powerful a rank 6 was. One of Li Chun's confidants reminded him, "Family head, the device." Lin Tianrui had made his decision. He hurriedly handed the device to Li Chun. "Family head Li, go now. I'll try to buy some time." With that, he ran into the tunnel, his men following. Li Chun's subordinates urged him, "Family head, we have to go. It's now or never." Li Chun hesitated. He knew Lin Tianrui's men couldn't stop the Wang family. Not even Wang Tianyuan. But Lin Shi was coming. If he left now and Lin Shi returned to find Lin Tianrui dead and the base destroyed, all his previous efforts would be for nothing. "Family head, don't hesitate. It's too late." Li Chun gripped the device so hard it nearly cracked. He closed his eyes. He made his choice. "Let's go. We're stopping the Wang family." Li Chun's subordinates were speechless. Lin Tianrui didn't expect Li Chun to leave men outside the command center to protect him. "Commander Lin, don't say a word. In this battle, the Li family and the official base stand or fall together," Li Chun declared. Even if he abandoned Lin Tianrui, he had already offended the Wang family. Wang Tianyuan was a vengeful man. He'd never let them go. Plus, they had already clashed with the Chun family over mutant plants. The Li family had no one else to lean on. They had to make their own way. This was Li Chun's gamble from the start. Now, he was betting everything on Lin Shi returning in time. He was betting they could hold out long enough. If they survived, he would have the absolute trust of both Lin Shi and Lin Tianrui. Li Chun was lost in thought when someone pulled him hard. "Family head, look out." A greatsword plummeted from the sky, crashing through the command center. The sharp blade, fast as a lightning bolt, grazed Li Chun and sliced through a subordinate's shoulder. In an instant, the man's lower body was severed. Blood sprayed like a burst pipe. Before his scream could even finish, the massive sword vanished without a trace. This subordinate had been standing closest to Li Chun. The sword was aimed exactly where Li Chun had been. If he hadn't been pulled back, he would have been sliced in half. The man on the ground, though still alive thanks to his strong vitality, fainted from the pain. He was as good as dead. Li Chun's hair stood on end. He stared at the clean cut in the ceiling. A sense of mortal danger enveloped everyone. "Get ready. Everyone, battle stations." Another sound of a weapon piercing the room echoed. The sword was so fast that if it hadn't been for the reinforced walls of the command center, no one would have even seen it coming. This time, the target was Lin Tianrui, who was standing on the platform. It was too fast. By the time they spotted it, it was too late to dodge. 7 guards surrounded Lin Tianrui. The moment the sword appeared, it cut through one of them like a knife through tofu. The fastest thing Lin Tianrui could do was raise his hand, his origin force already gathering. A second later, his teeth shattered under the sheer force. The power was unstoppable, slamming his own sword back into his chest. Lin Tianrui screamed in pain as he and a guard behind him were sent flying. They slammed into the wall. Lin Tianrui spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed. The guard behind him, who had acted as a meat shield, also coughed up blood and passed out. The others rushed over, eyes red. "Commander." Chen Xiang ran to check on him. Chen Xiang, the Special Forces captain and deputy commander for this battle, saw that Lin Tianrui was gravely injured. If the guard hadn't cushioned the blow and his origin force hadn't blocked the blade from piercing him, Lin Tianrui would have died instantly. Qin Xiang tried to give him emergency medicine, but Lin Tianrui kept vomiting blood, unable to swallow. At this rate, he wouldn't last long. But they soon realized they wouldn't even be able to block the next strike. That sword was invisible and untraceable. Anyone standing in its way was skewered. It didn't matter if they were in front of or behind Lin Tianrui. The sword could easily pierce through 2 or 3 people at once. It could come from any direction, with no way to defend. The enemy had backed them into a corner, and they hadn't even seen his face. Li Chun was the first to react. Guessing who the attacker was, he shouted, "The Wang family head is here. Why not show yourself?" "What?" Everyone was shocked. Wang Tianyuan hadn't intended to show himself, but since he'd been called out, he gave up on stealth. He smashed through the door with a single strike. These past 2 days of fighting had been humiliating for a rank 6 like him. How could he let this grudge go? "So you're Li Chun." Having been identified, Wang Tianyuan locked onto him. The great sword hovered beside him. Its sharp tip pointed directly at Li Chun. "Protect the family head." Li Chun's men scrambled to get in front of him. Li Chun remained calm. "I am Li Chun, head of the Li family. It is an honor to meet the Wang family head. I've admired your name for a long time." "Humph. A brat who still reeks of his mother's milk dares to speak to me as an equal? If you hadn't ruined my plans, my family wouldn't have lost so many people. Killing you 1,000 times wouldn't be enough." Wang Tianyuan's eyes bulged. The sword suddenly shot out, skewering the subordinate closest to Li Chun. Another life gone, and the room grew thick with the smell of blood. After the fatal strike, the sword quickly returned to Wang Tianyuan's side, its tip dripping blood as it aimed at Li Chun again. Another thrust, another life taken. No matter how they tried to block, they couldn't stop the power of that single blade. Li Chun's hands were clenched tight, but he spoke up again. "The government has confirmed that only one side can survive, humanity or the origin beasts. As members of the hidden clans, we should unite against the beasts, not slaughter each other." "Impressive. You have a silver tongue. If you wanted unity, why didn't you unite with the Wang family? Our 4 clans have supported each other for thousands of years. Are we not more trustworthy than these hypocritical government officials?" Wang Tianyuan was so angry his eyes narrowed. This was what he didn't understand. Even if Li Chun was a fool, he should at least fear death. Why was he seeking it? They kept talking, but Wang Tianyuan didn't stop the slaughter. In the blink of an eye, only 3 people were left by Li Chun's side. Panic and despair filled the room. Wang Tianyuan seemed to enjoy the feeling of pushing people to the brink. Enough games. He finally aimed for Li Chun. In 1 second, the sword would strike. Li Chun suddenly looked relaxed. "Did you ever wonder why I chose the government over you, even knowing you're a rank 6? Wang Tianyuan was indeed curious. He frowned. "Why?" "Because there's someone here much stronger than you. Naturally, I stand with the strongest." "You're joking." Not even Li Chun's own men believed him. Was there anyone in this headquarters stronger than Wang Tianyuan? How could they not know? Over the past 2 years of cooperation, they had thoroughly gathered intel on the base. They knew its strength like the back of their hand. Aside from a man named Lin Shi who appeared 2 years ago and then vanished, they knew everyone's power level. As for Lin Shi, rumor had it he only relied on a powerful battle pet. No one knew if he had even reached rank 6 himself. Origin beasts evolved so quickly, but for humans, every step forward was incredibly difficult. The people with Li Chun were his most trusted confidants, all smart and capable. They knew Li Chun was brilliant, but this time, they felt he had miscalculated. Sure enough, Wang Tianyuan laughed as if he'd heard a joke. His face turned impatient. "I thought you had something real to say. Turns out it's just empty boasting. You think you can scare me with words? Once I kill every piece of trash in this building, I'm coming for your family. I'll wipe out the Li bloodline today. No one leaves here alive. Am I boasting? Why don't you ask Deputy Commander Chen?" Facing Wang Tianyuan's overwhelming killing intent, Li Chun remained calm, as if everything was going according to plan. In reality, his palms were soaked with cold sweat. Wang Tianyuan had been suspicious, and this made him even more so. It wasn't that he believed Li Chun had such a powerhouse. It was that Li Chun could stay so composed in the face of death. Did he really have a trump card? For some reason, a sense of unease rose in Wang Tianyuan's heart. "Qin Xiang, who was tending to Lin Tianrui, was surprised to be called out. He had been watching the two of them closely. Qin Xiang was quick-witted and realized Li Chun was stalling for time. He didn't know if Lin Shi was coming back, but since Li Chun mentioned him to threaten Wang Tianyuan, Qin Xiang immediately played along. Family Headley is right. Brother Lin Shi is incredibly strong. His pet is already rank 6, and he's even stronger. At the mention of Lin Shi, Wang Tianyuan's expression shifted. His initial wariness was obvious. Li Chun thought to himself that it was working. So you're relying on a brat who killed my men with a beast? That kid hasn't been seen in 2 years. He's probably dead out there. You think you can scare me with a ghost? You're dreaming. Mentioning Lin Shi only made things worse. Wang Tianyuan's rage boiled over, and the killing intent in his eyes was about to overflow. Because Lin Tianrui wasn't commanding and most of the forces were in the shelter, many Wang family members had already infiltrated the inner city. Boss Wang stood behind Wang Tianyuan, witnessing the glory of their rank 6 leader. In front of his clansmen, Wang Tianyuan felt that being compared to Lin Shi was the ultimate insult. Just as he was about to kill Li Chun's hand trembled. Li Chun instinctively looked down. What are you looking at? Wang Tianyuan used his mental power to scan. Li Chun had received a message on his device. Help me calculate what 1 + 1 equals. Wang Tianyuan burst out laughing. Are you texting an idiot? You're about to die and you're playing games? Li Chun smiled bitterly. He had no idea what Lin Shi was doing. At a time like this, how could he have time for Lin Shi's riddles? Li Chun tried to speak to stall more time, but Wang Tianyuan didn't give him the chance. Brat, stop stalling. No one is saving you today. Die. The sword spun around him, moving so fast it was a blur. The sound of the air being torn apart echoed, making everyone's ears ring. Lin Tianrui's people closed their eyes. Wang Tianyuan was going to kill them all. Li Chun gripped the device so hard he nearly broke it. Is this how it ends? He thought, unwilling to accept it. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the room. The ceiling caved in as something heavy crashed down like a lightning bolt between Li Chun and Wang Tianyuan. Dust filled the command center. Everyone froze, staring in disbelief at the figure standing in the middle of the wreckage. The room was a mess of debris. Lin Shi stood there, one hand supporting Lin Siyuan, the other waving away the dust. Finally made it. Lin Shi. Qin Xiang was the first to call out his name. Lin Shi. This is Lin Shi. No one expected the man they just mentioned to appear right before their eyes. It was like a miracle. Li Chun looked at Lin Shi standing in front of him, his eyes lighting up. At this moment, Lin Shi's back looked more heroic than his own father's. The guards by Lin Tianrui, who had been in despair, looked on in disbelief. Am I dreaming? Stand back and stay steady. Lin Shi told Lin Siyuan. If blood splashes on your face, you'll have to wash it off later. Lin Shi set the boy aside. Lin Siyuan obediently stood behind Li Chun's group. The command center was now split in two. On one side were Li Chun, his men, Qin Xiang, and Lin Tianrui. On the other was Wang Tianyuan, with his family members crowding the door. Lin Shi stood in the middle. Wang Tianyuan stared at him. You're Lin Shi? Leave now, and I'll pretend you were never here. Lin Shi stepped onto his massive kite wheel, making it vibrate. Everyone realized then that the greatsword Wang Tianyuan had been using was pinned under Lin Shi's kite wheel, struggling to move. The sword that no one could stop was now like a small fish pinned down by a giant. No matter how it thrashed, it was useless. Wang Tianyuan's face was flushed from the effort of trying to reclaim it. If his weapon hadn't been trapped, he would have attacked already. He was clearly wary of Lin Shi's entrance and the current situation. Hearing Wang Tianyuan tell him to leave, Lin Shi glanced at his feet, then at Wang Tianyuan. He tilted his head as if looking at an idiot. What did you say? The other Wang family members looked at their leader with strange expressions. Their leader, who thought he was invincible, had his sword pinned down and couldn't even pull it back. What were they supposed to do? If they rushed in, wouldn't they just be embarrassing their leader? Wang Tianyuan used all his mental power but still couldn't move the sword. He glared at Lin Shi with a mix of fear and rage. You call yourself a warrior and treat a weapon like this? Get off it, he hissed, reaching into his robe for another weapon. He could now control 2 weapons at once. The greatsword was more powerful, but the other weapon was better for sneak attacks. However, with his clansmen watching, using a sneak attack while he was supposed to be dominant felt shameful. But before he could act, Lin Shi stepped off the kite wheel. Wang Tianyuan's face lit up with joy, then immediately froze. He realized that even though Lin Shi had stepped off, the greatsword remained motionless under the kite wheel. "Are you mocking me?" Wang Tianyuan's rage exploded. Without warning, a dagger shot out from his chest, flying straight for Lin Shi's face. Li Chun, Chun Xiang, and the others gasped. By the time their mental power detected the dagger, it was already inches from Lin Shi. The speed was terrifying. They wouldn't have been able to react. Cold sweat poured down their backs. Chun Xiang and the others were paralyzed with fear, unable even to shout a warning. They could only watch, not knowing if Lin Shi could block it. A second later, their eyes widened again. The dagger stopped dead an inch from Lin Shi's face. It just hovered there. The scene, combined with the stunned expressions of everyone in the room. Except for Wang Tianyuan, it was as if time had frozen. As for Wang Tianyuan, his face was beet red, not from shame, but from exertion. "Pierce him," he roared, trying to force the dagger forward, but it wouldn't budge. Everyone watched with mouths agape as Lin Shi broke the tension. He reached out, plucked the dagger from the air, and twirled it casually in his hand. If they hadn't seen what happened, they would have thought the dagger belonged to him. "This is impossible," Wang Tianyuan screamed. At such close range and such high speed, it hadn't even scratched him. Wang Tianyuan even began to doubt his own skills. But when he met Lin Shi's mocking gaze, he had to ask, his voice trembling, "You're also rank 6. What is your ability?" "What? This kid is also rank 6? The Wang family members behind him were already terrified by Lin Shi's entrance. Hearing their leader admit Lin Shi was rank 6 was unbelievable. Lin Shi was so young. Even if he'd started training in the womb, he shouldn't be rank 6. Besides, they had investigated him after he killed the second in command. When the apocalypse started, he was only rank 3. To reach rank 6 in just 3 years, was that even possible? If it was true, Lin Shi had to have a secret to rapid evolution. Greed and calculation flickered in the eyes of some of the Wang family members. Did Lin Shi explain? Of course not. "You talk too much." It felt like a long time, but only a minute had passed since Lin Shi appeared. Lin Shi was never patient, especially with enemies. His eyes flashed, and the dagger in his hand shot toward Wang Tianyuan's chest. It was faster than when Wang Tianyuan had controlled it. No one even saw the dagger leave Lin Shi's hand before it was buried in Wang Tianyuan's chest. Wang Tianyuan looked down at his chest in disbelief. The dagger was gone, buried deep. The powerful vitality of a rank 6 kept him from dying instantly. In fact, with a rank 6 healing factor and some medicine, he could recover quickly once the dagger was removed, as long as he focused his origin force on the wound. Unless the brain was destroyed, most injuries weren't fatal. But Wang Tianyuan was terrified by Lin Shi's power. If he had aimed for the head, he'd be dead already. The other Wang family members were even more frightened. "How can this be? Lord, protect the Lord." Wang Tianyuan waved them back, his eyes fixed on Lin Shi. Even now, he hadn't seen how the dagger hit him. What did that mean? It meant his opponent wasn't in the same league. He was much stronger, or his ability far surpassed his own. He remembered how Lin Shi appeared and how his greatsword was pinned down. He looked at the bleeding wound on his chest. No matter how hard it was to believe, he had to admit it. This young man, who looked younger than his own son, was far stronger than him. If they kept fighting, no one would leave this place alive. "Today, I, Wang, admit defeat. My family knows how to take a loss. From this day forward, the county will submit to the government and follow your orders. I alone will take responsibility for today's mistakes and fully compensate the official base for all damages." Wang Tianyuan endured the pain, cupped his fists, and bowed deeply. His posture was stiff, clearly showing that in all his decades, he had never had to humble himself like this before. The other members of the Wang family stood frozen in shock, watching the patriarch they admired bow to such a young man. How did it come to this? How did a guaranteed victory turn into this disaster? At this moment, every eye, both inside and outside the courtyard, was fixed on a single person in the command center. Lin Shi. Ever since Lin Shi appeared, the situation had taken a sudden, violent turn. The Wang family went from having victory in their grasp to begging for mercy from the government base. It was Lin Shi's arrival alone that had completely overturned the government's defeat. The Wang family clearly had a level 6 expert and a massive number of people, while the government base was left with nothing but remnants and broken soldiers. Could one powerful man really defeat 10,000? Were they really just going to give up like that? Qin Xiang, Lin Tianrui, and the government soldiers were stunned into silence by the dizzying change. Even now, their minds were blank. It happened too fast. Just minutes ago, they were in utter despair, like sheep waiting for the slaughter. Minutes later, they saw the enemy leader bowing in submission. Everything changed because of Lin Shi, the young man they once looked down on, the one they suspected of plotting against the base. That man was so powerful that he forced the patriarch of a hidden clan to kneel and willingly become a subordinate of the government base. Everything Lin Tianrui and the entire base had struggled for so long to achieve, Lin Shi finished in just a few minutes. Who said a brave man was just a fool with courage? Clearly, one man could hold a fortress that 10,000 couldn't break. Everyone was speechless. Only Li Chun noticed the subtle details. He stared intently at the bowing Wang Tianyuan, thinking to himself, as expected of an old fox who has led the Wang family for over 40 years. The entire family only listens to him. Seeing the situation turn sour, he tried to flip the script with a single sentence, turning a death trap into an opportunity for cooperation. As for whether he'll be loyal or treacherous later, that depends on whether Lin Shi stays at the government base and whether he firmly stands by the government side. There's a lot of room for manipulation there. As long as Wang Tianyuan doesn't die today, there will be plenty of trouble later. Lin Shi is powerful, of course, and doesn't fear any schemes, but there's still a nuisance. The government base has Lin Shi to protect it, but what about my Li family? Li Chun opened his mouth to say something, but ultimately remained silent. He waited quietly for Lin Shi's decision. Lin Shi's reaction was subtle. Hearing Wang Tianyuan's plea, a contemptuous smile curled at the corner of his mouth. He didn't answer Wang Tianyuan. Instead, he turned to look at Lin Tianrui, who had regained consciousness at some point and was being held by Qin Xiang. I told you, working with people like him is like bringing a tiger into your home. You never know if he's helping you or waiting to stab you in the back. Lin Tianrui gave Lin Shi a weak, bitter smile. His injuries were too severe to speak, so he only used his eyes to signal that he would follow Lin Shi's lead this time. The moment Lin Shi mentioned bringing a tiger home, Wang Tianyuan knew something was wrong. When he saw Lin Shi's murderous gaze fixed on him, he knew things were heading in the direction he feared most. He quickly shouted, "Kill them for me." The Wang family members were already prepared. Hearing the order, they drew their weapons and charged. Even if they couldn't kill Lin Shi, they had to kill the people behind him. But as soon as their weapons were drawn, they suddenly slipped from their hands. In the next instant, all those weapons turned and stabbed back at their former masters. What? How? Patriarch, help! Terrified screams rang out as most of the Wang family fell by their own blades. They couldn't understand why their weapons suddenly flew up, ignored their commands, and plunged straight into their necks and heads. Some died in disbelief, thinking Wang Tianyuan had killed them himself to prove his sincerity to the enemy. After all, Wang Tianyuan's ability was weapon manipulation. Wang Tianyuan had planned to use the other family members' attack as a distraction to take Lin Tianrui hostage. But he didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, everyone except him would be dead. Not just in the command room, but even the Wang family members surrounding the outside were all dead. Wang Tianyuan's attempt to charge forward was halted because Lin Shi had blocked his path. Lin Shi was holding the same massive axe that had blocked his greatsword earlier. The sharp blade made Wang Tianyuan afraid to take another step. His hands trembled, his eyes were bloodshot, and he clenched his teeth so hard they bled. The once unrivaled patriarch of the Wang family was now in total disarray. Deep in his eyes was a flicker of regret, as if he knew Lin Shi wouldn't let him off today. Wang Tianyuan's eyes flared with hatred and killing intent, no longer hidden. Who the hell are you? How can you control so many weapons? Is your ability weapon manipulation too? I already surrendered. Why do you still want to wipe us out? Wang Tianyuan roared in fury. At this moment, even without Lin Shi's axe restraining it, Wang Tianyuan's giant sword lay motionless, as if dead. He was in despair. Lin Shi didn't answer his earlier questions, only responding to the last one. When you Wangs kill people, is it always because they offended you? The people you killed in this headquarters, Did they all have a grudge against you? Wang Tianyuan laughed coldly, his eyes full of contempt. Killing a few ants. Does that require a reason? Our Wang family is a hidden clan with thousands of years of heritage. Our strength is greater than any nation on this planet. A powerhouse like you should be working with our Wang family. Why are you siding with them? Those weaklings. Can you protect them forever? Wang Tianyuan looked half mad. Who could accept going from a supreme powerhouse, a self-proclaimed ruler of the world, to a goat waiting for the slaughter? Who could accept their entire clan being wiped out in a single night, leaving them all alone? As the patriarch of a hidden clan, carrying the weight of his entire family, who could accept the family collapsing under his watch? This isn't real. I can't lose. Where did this brat come from? Haha, my parents want to go home. Okay. Wang Tianyuan had truly lost his mind. He screamed in the command room, his eyes no longer clear. Lin Shi didn't care if Wang Tianyuan was faking madness or not. He pulled out the dagger he had plunged into Wang Tianyuan's chest, letting the blood spray, and then brutally stabbed it into Wang Tianyuan's head. Watching the light fade from Wang Tianyuan's eyes, Lin Shi whispered, Patriarch Wang, in your eyes, others are ants. But to me, you're nothing but a worm. The light in Wang Tianyuan's eyes vanished, and his body slumped to the floor. With that, the Wang family was annihilated. Only after Wang Tianyuan closed his eyes in resentment did Lin Shi mutter, besides, who I work with is my business. Because I'm strong enough. I look for partners who are reliable, not easily treacherous, and who have a bottom line. The Wang family. I wouldn't even look at you. He seemed to be talking to himself, yet also to everyone else. Li Chun stood behind Lin Shi, his eyes flickering with relief and deep thought. The base's greatest threat was gone, but countless other troubles remained. And the most important thing right now? This is bad. The leader's injuries are getting worse. He needs surgery immediately. Chun Xiang cried out, drawing everyone's attention to Lin Tianrui. Lin Tianrui had just woken up, only to fall back into shock, blood constantly seeping from his mouth. Even though Lin Shi could see the internal state of Lin Tianrui's body, he wasn't a doctor. He didn't know what to do. Where are the doctors? Get Lin Tianrui to the treatment room now. Chun Xiang's face looked more tragic than if he were crying. Before the Wang family attacked, we locked all the doctors and researchers from the Scientific Research Institute in the shelter. No one is allowed to open the shelter's defenses except for the leader or Captain Wang Chao. Lin Siyuan heard this and hesitated, instinctively wanting to step forward, but Lin Shi stopped him with a look. Lin Shi moved to Lin Tianrui's side. Let me see. Chun Xiang and the guards quickly moved aside. Lin Shi did a preliminary check of the injuries, mainly to determine his life force. Lin Tianrui's condition was indeed critical. In just a few short minutes, it had begun to deteriorate. For a level 4 evolver to survive a hit from a level 6 was already a miracle. The initial wound wasn't fatal. The main problem was his shattered chest. Multiple bone fragments had pierced his organs, mixing with the ruptured tissue. He was bleeding out internally. The body's natural healing was trying to produce blood, but the bone fragments stuck in the organs were preventing the wounds from closing. All those fragments had to be removed and the bones reset for him to recover. Otherwise, his self-healing would fade as his body gave out, and Lin Tianrui would die. Using his clothes as cover, Lin Shi pulled a piece of mutated ginseng root from his space. This ginseng root contained massive life force. Nothing was better for saving Lin Tianrui's life. Lin Shi broke off a piece and handed it to Chun Xiang. Crush this and feed it to your leader. This is high-level mutated ginseng. Chun Xiang didn't hesitate. He took the root from Lin Shi and chewed it. Feeling the powerful life force quickly spreading through his mouth, Chun Xiang was momentarily stunned. He immediately realized how precious the root in his mouth was. Without hesitation, he fed it to Lin Tianrui mouth to mouth. The soldiers nearby looked at Chun Xiang with respect. As soon as the ginseng was consumed, Lin Tianrui's pale face regained some color. Lin Shi placed another piece of ginseng in Lin Tianrui's mouth for him to hold. This would keep him alive for now. The massive life force in the mutated ginseng would sustain him. As long as they found a surgeon within a certain time frame, he would be fine. Lin Shi didn't want anyone to know yet that Lin Siyuan had level 2 healing skills. Since Lin Tianrui wasn't going to die immediately, he wouldn't let Lin Siyuan reveal his power. Seeing Lin Tianrui's complexion improve, Chen Xiang and the others were overjoyed. Lin Shi immediately dampened their spirits. This ginseng can only keep him alive for a few hours. He needs emergency surgery. Chen Xiang knew the situation was dire and quickly told Lin Shi the location of the shelter. The shelter was designed to withstand attacks from level 6 origin beasts. We can't contact Captain Wang Chao right now. We might have to force the door open. But he didn't know if Lin Shi could break it. If the door didn't open, Lin Tianrui would surely die. It wasn't that Chen Xiang wasn't worried. You guys stay here and protect Lin Tianrui. Don't move him. I'll go find the doctor myself. Inside the shelter. Not long after Lin Tianrui opened the shelter's defense system and left, Wang Chao woke up from his coma. He realized he was in the shelter and suddenly remembered the agreement he had with Lin Tianrui. They had agreed that if the base faced an insurmountable crisis, they would open the shelter. One would stay outside, sacrificing themselves to protect the survivors. The other would stay in the shelter, waiting until it was safe to lead the remaining people out. The one who stayed would become the new leader of the base, provided the base still existed. Wang Chao scrambled out of his hospital bed and rushed to the shelter's control room, wanting to open the defense system. Qin Shuang and the others quickly stopped him. Captain, the leader ordered that we only open the door once we're sure it's safe outside. The shelter was only just opened, which means the leader is still safe. I have to go out and bring him back. Wang Chao's chest was wrapped in thick bandages, and because he was so agitated, blood began to soak through. Qin Shuang and the others blocked the control panel. Captain, the leader prepared for everything. He knew you'd want to open the door as soon as you woke up, so he had the technicians modify the system. Once the door is closed, the controls lock automatically. The earliest it can be opened is 3 months from now. The shelter doesn't just block physical and mental detection, it blocks all signals and communication devices. There's no way to know what's happening outside from in here. The agreement between Lin Tianrui and Qin Shuang was that if it was safe, Lin Tianrui would open the shelter himself. If he didn't, it meant he was in danger. That was the worst-case scenario. That meant if Lin Tianrui didn't come to open the door, it couldn't be opened for a long time. At the earliest, it would be 3 months, or when the supplies ran out after a year. Lin Tianrui knew Wang Chao's temper, which is why he set the 3-month lock. He was afraid Wang Chao would wake up and impulsively open the door. Wang Chao's eyes widened. I'm going to try anyway. Move. Seeing Wang Chao's determination, Qin Shuang stepped away from the console. Wang Chao rushed to the panel and tried to open the door, but just as Qin Shuang said, it was locked. It wouldn't open for 3 months. And the shelter had no other exit. Wang Chao felt all his strength leave him. He stared at the 3-month countdown on the screen. It's all my fault. I'm too weak. I'm still too weak. Wang Chao slammed his fist on the table, blaming himself. If he had been strong enough to stop Wang Tianyuan, if he hadn't fallen into a coma, he would be the one outside right now. The others were heartbroken seeing Wang Chao like this. If they could, they wouldn't have wanted to leave their comrades behind either. Qin Shuang bit her lip, her eyes red. Before long, the control room suddenly erupted with a piercing alarm. The screen flashed. What's happening? Someone is attacking the shelter door. Has the base been overrun? Did the enemy find us this fast? Many in the control room gasped in horror. If the shelter was under attack, did that mean their beloved leader and comrades had already fallen? Everyone's eyes turned red. Quick, tell everyone to prepare for battle. If the defenses break, we'll go out and fight the Wang family to the death. As soon as the alarm sounded, the entire shelter fell into chaos. Everyone assumed the Wang family was attacking and that the base had been destroyed. The lucky survivors who made it into the shelter thanks to the sacrifice of their loved ones wailed in grief. Some, with bloodshot eyes, raised their weapons, shouting that they would take the enemy down with them. Soon, all the evolvers and soldiers were ready for battle, gathering at the main entrance of the shelter, waiting to strike. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of metal clashing was deafening. Even the ground beneath their feet shook slightly. Captain, the enemy is too strong. Qin Shuang looked anxiously at the door that the base's best craftsmen had poured their hearts into, using countless rare materials and even gold. That door looked like it was about to shatter at any moment. The enemy's strength was terrifying. They had slaughtered the entire base, and now they were here. If they fought, They would be like ants against an elephant. But they knew survival was impossible. This feeling of waiting for death was indescribable. This was the absolute worst-case scenario they had planned for when building the shelter. If the enemy destroyed the base, found the shelter, and had the power to break the defenses, then those kept inside as the seeds of humanity would become rats in a cage, just waiting to die. At least those outside had a chance to run. In the minds of Wang Chao and the others, the enemy reaching the shelter meant almost no one was left alive at the base. Because of this, there wasn't a spark of hope left in the eyes of the soldiers and evolvers. Though they held weapons, they were shrouded in a dark, deathly aura. Then, Wang Chao spoke. "Don't be afraid. We might not have been born on the same day, but dying together is a fitting end for brothers in arms." Wang Chao stared at the door, no fear of death in his eyes. There was only calm. The bombardment of the door grew louder. Everyone felt the moment of the breach approaching. Many in the back held their breath in tension. Wang Chao spoke again. "Everyone, listen up. When the door breaks, use your strongest attack all at once. Focus on the enemy in front, then follow me in a charge. Kill one, and we break even. Kill two, and we're ahead. Today, there is no retreat. Wang Chao will be your brother again in the next life." As he finished, a crash louder than all the others rang out. Then, a massive explosion followed. The shelter door was finally blown open, slammed onto the ground by a powerful force. As the door fell and the dust began to swirl, Wang Chao's voice roared in everyone's ears. All the soldiers and evolvers, prepared for battle, unleashed their strongest attacks simultaneously toward the door. But to their surprise, every single attack missed. When they rushed out, they found no one there. "Where are they? Commander, there's no one here. What's going on? What happened?" Where was the horde of enemies they had imagined? Then, a voice came from behind the crowd, startling everyone. "Are you looking for me?" Lin Shi stood on his giant flying wheel, hovering in the air. Hundreds of eyes from the people who had rushed out of the shelter looked up at him. They stared in total confusion. He had just broken the door, and a barrage of attacks had nearly hit him. If he hadn't dodged quickly, he would have definitely taken some hits. "Who are you?" Some people hadn't even reacted yet. "It's Lin Shi." Someone recognized him, their voice cracking with emotion. "Lin Shi, what's going on? Is the base okay?" Once they realized it was really Lin Shi, everyone except the newcomers went wild. They were delirious with joy, a happiness so intense it was beyond words. If Lin Shi was here, it meant the base was still standing. They were safe. Fantastic. 10 minutes later, Lin Shi returned to the command center with a group of medical staff and Wang Chao. The medics quickly placed Lin Tianrui on a stretcher and rushed him to the hospital. Fortunately, the Wang family's attack was aimed at taking over, not destroying the infrastructure. The hospital was still intact. Lin Tianrui underwent several hours of surgery before being wheeled out. The operation was a success, thanks to the base's best medicine combined with the life-extending support from the mutated ginseng. Lin Tianrui was out of danger. Wang Chao left a few trusted men to look after him, while the rest began restoring the base's operations. They reorganized the defenses, moved the survivors from the shelter back to the surface, treated the wounded, and tallied the casualties. There was a mountain of work for Wang Chao and the others. Quickly, the heavy atmosphere lifted. The initial despair in the base vanished. While they weren't exactly celebrating yet, hope shone on every face. A soldier, still looking a bit shaken, said to the person next to him, "You have no idea. When I charged out of that shelter, I thought I was a dead man. I never expected the one breaking the door wouldn't be an enemy." Another was unusually excited. "Wait, when I ran out, I was just wondering if my idol would come to save us. And he actually did. Turns out a man's sixth sense is pretty strong too, huh?" Another person talked nonstop to his companion, his tone full of awe. "Daichong, you missed it. When I ran out of the shelter, I saw my idol floating in the sky like a god. A flying god. That image is burned into my heart forever. I'll never forget it. Too bad you didn't see it." Similar scenes were happening everywhere. Everyone knew that the base was saved, and they were alive all because Lin Shi showed up. The Wang family's attack had caused massive psychological damage. Only by filling their hearts with hope could the base recover quickly. And Lin Shi was that hope. At this time, Lin Shi had disguised himself and was walking through the base with Lin Siyuan. Passing by, He heard soldiers mentioning his name multiple times. Even though Lin Shi wasn't thin-skinned, he felt a bit awkward. Luckily, his face was covered, so no one saw his embarrassment. "Uncle, are you blushing? Are they talking about you?" Lin Siyuan blinked his innocent eyes at Lin Shi. Lin Shi. Lin Siyuan still didn't know Lin Shi's name, but he instinctively knew those people were talking about his uncle. Because among everyone he knew, his uncle was the most powerful. Lin Shi cleared his throat and changed the subject. "Do you remember when you stepped up to save someone earlier?" Lin Siyuan nodded without a second thought, confirming Lin Shi's suspicion. The reason was simple. At that time, everyone in the command room knew Lin Shi, so he wanted to help heal Lin Tianrui. Lin Shi understood Lin Siyuan's thinking. Since he planned to keep the boy with him, he couldn't let him die or be used by others. Most importantly, he couldn't let the boy cause trouble for him. Lin Shi said seriously, "Remember this. From now on, at any time, if there is a third person awake besides you and me, do not use your power. Especially like you did with that wild wolf." Lin Shi had told Lin Siyuan this before, but never as sternly as now. He realized Lin Siyuan still held onto a childish innocence and kindness from before the apocalypse. In the apocalypse, that was a death sentence. But everyone in the room knew you, and the bad guys were already killed by you. Lin Siyuan looked a bit hurt and very confused. "In that command room, you only knew me. How could you be sure everyone else was trustworthy? You didn't know if they were reliable, yet you rushed to reveal your power to save a stranger. That was your first mistake." Lin Shi knew Lin Siyuan wanted to save the person because of him. Lin Siyuan was grateful to him, so he wanted to save someone close to him. So, today Lin Shi wanted to take this chance to teach Lin Siyuan not to trust anyone but him. Second mistake. Lin Tianrui's injuries couldn't be healed by normal means. The internal damage had to be cleaned up first. In other words, even if you used your healing power on him, it would only delay the inevitable. It wouldn't have lasted. So, revealing your power to save him was actually useless. If he was going to use Lin Siyuan's power, he had to teach the boy to be a bit smarter. Lin Shi remembered saving the wild wolf earlier. During Lin Siyuan's treatment, if Lin Shi hadn't stepped in to reset the wolf's organs, it would have been impossible for Lin Siyuan to regenerate them at his current level. Even if he could have, he would have died. His energy wouldn't have been enough to sustain the wolf's recovery. He would have overexerted himself, leading to the depletion of his life force and death. So, Lin Shi had to make Lin Siyuan understand when to use his power and how to use it to maximize its effect. As for the third mistake, Lin Shi stopped and looked directly at Lin Siyuan, saying each word clearly. "We've only known each other for a short time, and you already trust me completely? What if my goal is the same as those villains who imprisoned you? Listen carefully. In the apocalypse, never fully trust anyone." Lin Shi wasn't lying. His goal and those villains' goals were actually the same. They both wanted to keep Lin Siyuan by their side to use his power. It was just that the villains at that base used force, while Lin Shi's methods were a bit more subtle. This was something Lin Shi was trying to make clear to Lin Siyuan. He couldn't fake affection to trick a child just to use him. If he were found out and Lin Siyuan grew to hate him, it would be better to tell the truth from the start. Lin Siyuan instinctively wanted to deny it, but looking into Lin Shi's stern, strange eyes, he opened his mouth but couldn't find the words. Seeing that Lin Siyuan had realized the problem, Lin Shi continued walking forward. Following behind Lin Shi, Lin Siyuan stayed a few steps back, his head down, his mood clearly dampened. One big, one small. The two left a trail of different-sized footprints in the snow. Lin Shi led Lin Siyuan to the old Wulong courtyard. The base had been busy dealing with the Wang family, so the courtyard had been neglected for a few days. Lin Shi grabbed a broom from the wall and swept it clean. Seeing this, Lin Siyuan came over to help. The two of them quickly finished cleaning the room. Just as Lin Shi sat down, Qi Yun arrived. Qi Yun was also one of the refugees who had come here. Since he wasn't a government official, there was no way he would have fought to the death on the front lines with Lin Tianrui. He only stayed at the base because he had nowhere else to go. Qi Yun sat down across from Lin Shi, looking very familiar. At that moment, Lin Siyuan brought over some freshly boiled water for Lin Shi. Qi Yun pointed at Lin Siyuan, his face a mix of shock and teasing. "I heard you came back with a kid, but I didn't believe it. I didn't expect it to be true. You're so young, yet you have a secret son this big?" It wasn't surprising that Qi Yun was so shocked. He had known Lin Shi for nearly 3 years and understood about 70 or 80% of his personality. Lin Shi was cold, especially when it came to showing emotion. He kept everyone at a distance. Qi Yun had never seen Lin Shi with anyone by his side, other than origin beasts, let alone a child who was clearly a burden. If there wasn't something special about him, why would Lin Shi bring this kid along? Lin Shi glanced at Qi Yun and said nothing. A secret son? The guy really had an imagination. But this also reminded Lin Shi that those who knew him would easily focus their attention on Lin Siyuan if he suddenly brought a child back. Lin Shi didn't want Lin Siyuan to be noticed too much. I picked the kid up on the road. I was going to take him home, but then I got word from Lin Tianrui that the base was in trouble, so I brought him back here first. Nothing special. Lin Siyuan glanced at Qi Yun, set the water down, and went back to his room. Qi Yun looked at Lin Shi with a yeah, right expression, clearly not believing him. But he didn't press further. He grabbed Lin Shi's cup, drained it, and sighed. You really saved the day this time. You saved the whole base. Hero Lin Shi, what do you want as a reward? Lin Shi had helped the base out of trouble many times before, but never like this, saving the entire base from total destruction. With Lin Shi's current reputation, if he straight up asked to be the base leader, people would probably agree. I haven't thought that far ahead. Honestly, I can't think of anything I need. Lin Shi thought about it. Gene medicine didn't matter much to him anymore. After getting that poison from the base last time, he could completely replicate it, so he didn't need to ask the base for more. As for supplies, his space had more than the base's entire warehouse. He even had a dozen icebreakers in there. He couldn't think of anything he lacked. Actually, there were things he needed, but they were things the government base would have a hard time providing. You're so strong now, don't you want your own power base? If you have that intention, I can help you. Qi Yun looked at Lin Shi with bright eyes. Lin Shi replied flatly, I'm not interested. Qi Yun knew Lin Shi might refuse, but he didn't expect it to be so blunt. He didn't know that 2 years ago, Lin Tianrui had already tried to tempt Lin Shi with the position of base leader. Even if Lin Shi was afraid he couldn't manage it, Qi Yun wasn't giving up. He said, once you're the manager, you don't have to do anything else. Just do what you want and find someone else to run the base for you. I don't want to. If you become the leader, you'll have endless resources at your fingertips. Whatever you want, someone will bring it to you. You won't have to lift a finger. I don't want to. I don't want to. No matter how much Qi Yun talked about the benefits of being the leader, Lin Shi's answer remained the same. He didn't want it. Seeing Lin Shi's firm refusal, Qi Yun frowned. Don't you see that Lin Tianrui is weak? This base needs an absolute powerhouse to intimidate other forces. Lin Tianrui is good at other things, but strength and capability are two different matters. His potential is limited. He'll never be a top-tier powerhouse. But you're very popular in the base right now. As long as Lin Tianrui agrees, you're the new leader. When that happens, you can just let Lin Tianrui keep running the place. You only need to be the leader in name. Lin Shi listened to Qi Yun for a long time. He understood Qi Yun's intentions now. He looked at Qi Yun with confusion. Why do you want me to be the leader so badly? That's something Lin Tianrui and the others should be worrying about. Are you trying to revive the Qi family's power after it was wiped out? Lin Shi's eyes flickered as he looked closer at Qi Yun. The origin energy in Qi Yun's body was much more concentrated than it was 2 years ago. His power had likely reached the threshold of level 5, and his mental strength was also approaching level 5. It seemed he had broken through in the last few months. Qi Yun was naturally talented and knew how to cultivate, so this breakthrough speed was normal. Had his ambition grown along with his strength? Seeing Lin Shi's probing gaze, Qi Yun knew he had been misunderstood and quickly waved his hands to explain. Don't overthink it. I don't have any other motives. I just want to live a peaceful life without being hunted by one person today and another tomorrow. I just want to lean against a big tree and enjoy the shade. I only hope the base gets stronger. Is that really it? Lin Shi asked. Qi Yun rolled his eyes. Why wouldn't it be? The Qi family is all dead. I'm the last one left. How am I supposed to revive the family? Go find 100 women to have kids with? By the time they grow up, it'll be at least 20 years. With the way things are, whether I'll even be alive then is another story. So you're saying, if you could survive, you'd still hope to revive the Qi family. Lin Shi concluded. Qi Yun's jaw dropped. Did I say that? I meant, you're just twisting my words. Lin Shi cut him off. Qi Yun was fuming. After seeing Qi Yun out, Li Chun arrived. He came for one simple reason, to suck up to Lin Shi. After getting Lin Shi's permission, Li Chun entered the courtyard alone, his attitude incredibly humble. This was the second time Lin Shi had met Li Chun since they parted at Changbai Mountain. Lin Shi remembered clearly that Li Chun was very smart. Li Chun was indeed clever. He didn't show a hint of arrogance in front of Lin Shi, showering him with gratitude and praise. He pledged to cooperate with the government base and establish a firm alliance. Lin Shi lost his patience, exchanged a few words, and told him to go find Lin Tianrui, then sent him away. A moment later, Wang Chao arrived. Wang Chao looked exhausted. His injuries hadn't healed, yet he had to handle so many things. It was clear he wasn't doing well. After dealing with the major issues, Wang Chao didn't rest at all. He hadn't even had a drink of water before coming to see Lin Shi. As soon as he entered, he grabbed the cup of water Qi Yun hadn't finished and gulped it down, while Lin Shi watched, hesitating to speak. Wang Chao repeatedly expressed his gratitude to Lin Shi for returning, nearly breaking down in tears. Eventually, he too was sent away by Lin Shi. After that, several other acquaintances came to visit. The next day, Lin Tianrui woke up. Thanks to timely treatment, his injuries were healing well. The first thing he asked when he opened his eyes was where Lin Shi was. The two guards looking after him glanced at each other. We heard he left the base early this morning. We don't know where he went. This time, Lin Shi didn't stay at the base for long. He rested for one night and left at the crack of dawn with Lin Siyuan, heading back the way they came. He realized that in the base, he was like a delicious cake. Everyone who saw him wanted to come over and take a sniff. It was a massive pain. This was also one of the reasons Lin Shi hated and didn't want to be the base leader. Having to deal with so many different agendas without being able to just kill them was way too much trouble. A few days later, Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan officially set foot in America, arriving at the city Lin Siyuan wanted to return to. Which way is your house in this city? Do you remember the specific location? Lin Shi only had a fairly detailed world map. For maps of other countries, he had to rely on Lin Tianrui, but those maps only distinguished between cities. They weren't detailed. Looking at the white, snowy landscape, Lin Siyuan frowned, trying to remember. I remember there was a park near my house. A park? In the park, there was a statue of an old man. Lin Shi swept his mental power across the city and interrupted Lin Siyuan. Do you remember what your parents look like? Yes. Follow me. Lin Shi picked Lin Siyuan up, slung him over his shoulder like a sack of flour, and hopped onto a large motorcycle, speeding off in one direction. Meanwhile, in the southeast of the city, in an abandoned building, several survivors were huddled together, using everything they could find to brace a door that was being violently pounded by some beast. I can't hold it much longer. A woman in her 30s behind the door cried out in fear to her friend. It's just a rat. I could have stomped it to death before. Another man said, hurry up. Let us rest for a bit. Switch out. Two white men collapsed, replaced by a man and a woman who took over bracing the door. The two who sat down gasped for air. Rest for a moment. The woman covered her face and sobbed, while the man kept grumbling. All four were white. They had been trapped here for 2 days. 2 days ago, their group of 13 had gone out to find food. It had been 3 years since the apocalypse. Except for some high-rise buildings, most structures were buried in snow. Those that were exposed had already been picked clean. Now, if survivors wanted to find anything useful, they had to rely on memory and risk digging through buried buildings. This time, the 13 were quite lucky. They quickly found a buried structure and were overjoyed. The deeper they dug, the closer they got to the building's windows. The 13 entered one by one. Just as they were about to search for supplies, the nightmare began. The inside of the building wasn't just a mess from being looted. There were signs of something gnawing on everything. Someone quickly realized this building had become a nest for origin beasts. But by the time they noticed something was wrong and tried to retreat, it was too late. Origin beasts have an incredibly sharp sense of smell, especially the one in this building. It was a rat, as big as a large dog from before the apocalypse. The kind of rat that used to live in sewers, where one foot could crush a normal rat. Attacked, everyone panicked at first, but after realizing this rat was alone, they got excited. Nowadays, most origin beasts live in packs. It's rare to find a loner. If they could kill this rat and ration the meat, they wouldn't have to look for food for a month. But everything has two sides. With their meager strength, the strongest being only level 2, two people had already fallen within minutes of the fight. The mutant rats were just too fast. 13 poorly armed people trying to kill a level 3 mutant rat was a nightmare. Finally, after sacrificing 5 lives, they managed to coordinate and luckily kill the giant rat. But before long, a piercing screech echoed from beneath the building. Another giant rat, just as large as the one they just killed, appeared before them. Exhausted, they had no choice but to flee. During the escape, 4 more were caught and torn apart. The remaining 4 ran blindly and luckily hid in a room that looked like a cold storage unit. Fortunately, this cold storage room seemed sturdier than the others. Unfortunately, the door had been shredded by the rats. They could only huddle together and hold the door shut. "Jack, this is all your fault. You're the one who insisted on coming here for supplies. If you hadn't been so stubborn about digging here, we would have headed south already." The white woman looked up and blamed the man sitting there, cursing incessantly. "When we first found this building, you were happier than anyone. You even kissed me and said you'd thank me properly when we got home. Why are you blaming me now? But with these beasts here, we're about to be trapped and die anyway. What does that have to do with me? Why don't you blame Masso? That bastard was the one who dug up this building. Masso is already dead." Their bickering only made the rat outside the door angrier, and it slammed against it even harder. The two holding the door were suffering beyond words. An Asian man spoke up, his voice cracking. "Shut up, all of you. I'm exhausted. I haven't eaten in 2 days and nights. I can't take much more of this. If I make it back alive this time, I'm never going on a mission with you guys again. If I survive, I'm never stepping foot outside. I'd rather starve to death at home than come out here and be eaten." All 4 were filled with resentment, and despair slowly crept into their hearts. Before they left, they had eaten almost all their food to keep up their strength. Even if they were lucky enough to return this time, starvation was certain. The post-apocalyptic world is cruel. If you don't die of hunger or cold, you're eaten by beasts. If only we could get into the Chun base, we wouldn't be in this mess. All 4 wore bitter expressions. The Chun base was one of the first bases to appear in the Americas after the apocalypse. Formerly a hidden clan from the Great Xia, the Chun family had been developing their underground influence in South America for decades. If the strongest public power in the Americas was the Tower Nation, then the underground world belonged to the Chun family. When the apocalypse hit, the Chun family emerged, immediately gaining a following and establishing a base. They first opened their shelters to the people of Xia living there, then recruited talented individuals with generous rewards. Currently, the Americas have 2 major bases. One is held by the Tower Nation government in North America, called the Liberty Base. The other is the Chun Base, which occupies South America and is expanding into North America. Those 3 were living in South America, but since they weren't from Xia, they didn't have the privilege of entering the Chun Base. They also didn't meet the minimum requirement of being a level 3 awakened to enter. Furthermore, they had nothing special about them. People like them lived worse than sewer rats before the apocalypse. In the base, they were called vagrants. Not only were they looked down upon, but if they were encountered, they might be killed on a whim to satisfy the sick ego of those who felt superior. Yet, everyone wanted to get in. Word was, you didn't have to fear starvation there. Everyone got meat every day, warm clothes, and enough fuel for heat. That was the life they dreamed of. If I had known it would end like this, I wouldn't have run. I would have taken a few bites out of that rat before I died, just to know what meat tastes like, the woman in the group said in despair. Just then, the impact suddenly stopped. It went quiet outside. The 4 looked at each other, their faces showing no relief, only more tension. "Is that damn rat tired?" Someone whispered. "Jack!" Someone shouted. "Are you crazy?" The person next to him quickly covered Jack's mouth, but Jack pulled away. "I want to see if that old rat is gone. Maybe it's tired, or maybe it's trying to lure us out to eat us." The other 3 fell silent. It was true. Mutant beasts were cunning now. What if it was hiding by the door waiting for them? Last time, a team returned with heavy losses, saying they were tricked by a fire-mutated dog and lost 8 people. But waiting here meant death too. As the 4 hesitated, they suddenly heard a voice from the door, a voice that sounded like a savior. "Come out. I've killed the rat." Lin Sure stood next to the rat's corpse, holding Lin Siyuan. He spoke to the cold storage door. Jack and the other three heard the noise at the entrance and cautiously opened the door. They peeked out and saw Lin Shi. His distinct Asian features immediately made them wary. Lately, everyone around here was from the Chun family base. They wanted to get into the Chun base, but the people from that base had no sympathy for drifters like them. One wrong word, and they'd be beaten to death. It was common. But quickly, they saw Lin Shi was also carrying a child about Lin Siyuan's age. Their wariness immediately dropped by half. In the apocalypse, 9 out of 10 people weren't good, but someone who could carry such a clean child probably wasn't a bad person. More importantly, he had killed the giant rat, essentially saving their lives. As long as he didn't want them dead, they were still ahead. Thank you for saving us. Jack and the other three stepped out of the cold room, their faces a mix of gratitude and embarrassment. Lin Shi sized them up. 3 men and 1 woman, in tattered clothes, thin despite their tall frames. They looked no different from any other survivors elsewhere. After using his mental power to scan the city, Lin Shi determined these were the closest to him. I have a few questions for you. Lin Shi pointed to the level 3 rat corpse he had just killed. Answer well, and this rat, along with the nest of pups downstairs, is yours. When he found the building, besides seeing these 4 and the corpse of a level 3 female rat, Lin Shi had also seen a rat nest on the bottom floor with over a dozen pups squealing for food. Hearing this, Jack and the others were overjoyed. They finally understood why the giant rat didn't show up when they killed the first one. The female rat was probably about to give birth and couldn't leave. It wasn't until they killed the male rat that she came after them in a rage. Ask away. We'll tell you everything. The blonde young man in the group gave a flattering smile, even using polite terms. Lin Shi gave them Lin Siyuan's home address and asked if they knew it. The 4 looked at each other, using their eyes to ask if anyone knew the place. Seeing everyone's blank expressions, they all felt a bit dejected. This was a rare chance to get food just by answering a question. And they were going to miss it because they didn't know the address. They all thought that if they couldn't answer the first question, Lin Shi would just leave to find someone else. But they were overthinking it. Lin Shi didn't care about that low-level origin beast meat, especially rat meat. Even if it was mutated, it was on his never-eat list. Seeing their faces, Lin Shi knew they didn't know the address. He was about to ask something else. Just then, Jack suddenly remembered something and said excitedly, "Sir, I don't know the address you mentioned, but I know someone who might. I can take you to see them." Lin Shi nodded. Good. Second question. Tell me everything you know about the factions in this area. What? You're not from the Chun family base? The woman in the group blurted out. Initially, seeing Lin Shi, they assumed he was from the Chun base because of his Asian appearance. But hearing his questions, he didn't even seem to live nearby. How could he not know where the Chun base was? If Lin Shi came from the outside world, then to travel such a long distance to get here, how powerful must he be? In an instant, the 4 of them had various expressions. But no matter how shocked they were, the blonde young man reacted the fastest and respectfully answered Lin Shi's question. They had never been inside the Chun base, so their knowledge was just based on rumors. They only knew the Chun base was established by Chinese people in South America long ago, and the current leader was also Chinese. You're Chinese? If you're Chinese, you can enter the Chun base unconditionally. I heard the Chun base treats Chinese people very well, and a Chinese person can even bring family members of different nationalities into the base. The blonde's eyes lit up as he looked at Lin Shi, clearly wanting to get into the Chun base. The other 3 also quickly added what they knew about the Chun base. What do you call these mutated animals? Lin Shi asked. Origin beasts. That's the unified name from the Chun base. And origin beasts are ranked by levels. Level 1, Level 2. Level 2, the woman added quickly. Lin Shi understood. As expected of a hidden clan. So the Chun base was the 4th hidden clan he was looking for. I'm looking for 2 people. If you help me find them, I'll give you an extra reward. Who? We don't know many other Asians. Lin Shi brought Lin Siyuan forward and had the boy describe his parents' features. Jack and the others listened, but they all shook their heads. They had never met those 2. Hearing that Lin Shi was looking for the boy's parents, all 4 showed pity for Lin Siyuan. These 4 had survived this long and were locals. They knew almost all the drifters in the city, but they had never seen the 2 people Lin Siyuan described. Either they were dead, had left the city, or they were inside the Chun base. The 4 offered their guesses. Lin Siyuan shrank back behind Lin Shi, looking a bit discouraged. Lin Shi asked a few more questions about the local survivors and the base, then told Jack to lead the way. Boss, can I eat something first? I'm starving. Jack looked at the rat corpse on the ground, which was starting to stiffen, and swallowed hard. They hadn't eaten in 2 days and nights. They were so hungry they were losing their minds. If Lin Shi hadn't been standing there, they would have lunged at it already. Lin Shi nodded. I'll wait for you outside. He didn't care how the four shared the meat and walked out of the building. Outside, though it was freezing and the wind was bone-chilling, the air was much better than inside. Seeing Lin Siyuan shiver from the sudden cold, Lin Shi leaned over to block the wind. If nothing goes wrong, we'll find your home soon. But you have to be prepared. Lin Shi looked into Lin Siyuan's eyes, seeing the unease and worry eventually turn into a spark of determination. Lin Siyuan said seriously to Lin Shi, whether we find my home or not, I'm very grateful to you, uncle. If my parents aren't here, I'll follow you from now on. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Lin Shi waited outside for a while. Jack and the others were afraid Lin Shi would get impatient. So, they quickly butchered the rat, swallowed a few pieces of raw meat, and climbed out of the building through the window. All four were carrying large bags filled with the female rat's meat, divided into 4 portions, along with the butchered rat pups. When they found the pups, they were still alive, but now they were frozen solid. Newborn pups were pink and hairless, and the meat was very tender. It was a rare delicacy for Jack and the others. What disappointed them was that the first rat they had killed earlier had disappeared, along with the bodies of their fallen comrades. Maybe over the past 2 days, they were dragged off by other wild beasts or eaten by the mother rat. Please forgive me, Mr. Lin, for keeping you waiting. This is a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it. Blondie handed Lin Shi a baby rat carcass, as if trying to claim credit. They had found a total of 12 baby rats, and each person got 3. A baby rat the size of a palm. Normally, who would share that with anyone else? But Blondie was trying his hardest to suck up to Lin Shi. He even thought that if he could get on Lin Shi's good side, he might get some help when Lin Shi joined the Qin clan base. He completely missed the fleeting look of disgust in Lin Shi's eyes. No need. Keep it. Lin Shi pointed at Jack. You. Take us to find him. Jack was overjoyed. Rubbing his hands together, he pointed in a direction. My friend is over there. He knows this area like the back of his hand. I guarantee it. If he doesn't know, then nobody in this city does. Lead the way. Lin Shi followed Jack. The other 3 stood there, hesitating. They knew following Lin Shi was an opportunity, but they were carrying a lot of meat. In the apocalypse, a human life was worth less than a dog's. What if their meat got robbed? Weighing the pros and cons, 2 of them headed back to their shelter. Only Blondie hesitated for a moment before deciding to follow Lin Shi. Boss, take me with you. Jack glanced at Blondie. Seeing that Lin Shi didn't chase him away, he just kept leading the way. They trudged slowly through the snow. Their pace was sluggish, but Lin Shi had no intention of using his snowboard to carry them. He and Lin Siyuan walked slowly behind. Along the way, Blondie kept kissing up to Lin Shi, until Lin Shi finally spoke up. Shut your mouth. If you're going to be this noisy, then get lost. Blondie had no choice but to shut up. The friend Jack mentioned wasn't too far away, just over an hour's walk. At Lin Shi's speed, it would have taken less than 2 minutes. In this flat city, with no vehicles and terrain unsuitable for skiing, getting around was incredibly difficult. But these survivors had no better options. Jack's friend's place was a building buried in snow. They used an upper floor window as a door and packed snow to form a staircase, allowing them to go up and down to the surface. The advantage of this setup was that it was warmer than an igloo, easy to defend against enemies, and convenient for storing supplies. The downside was the lack of light, or rather, almost total darkness. And if it snowed, the house would be buried again, requiring time to clear it out. Many survivors in this city lived in groups of a few to over a dozen people in buildings like this. Jack told Lin Shi to wait a moment, walked up the snow stairs, knocked on the door, and called out a few times. Immediately, a wary voice asked from inside, "Who is it?" "I'm Tom's friend." "Is Tom here?" "He's not here." "Get lost." The voice inside sounded impatient and guarded. "I have something very important to discuss with him." Jack thought for a moment, then said, "I have meat." In this apocalypse, sentiment meant nothing, Only benefits mattered. Hearing there was meat, the person inside instantly changed their tune. A voice dripping with poorly concealed greed slipped through the crack in the door. You have meat? How much? Jack cut straight to the chase. I need to find an address on Luke Street. I need Tom to guide me. If it's done, I'll give him a piece of meat. The door finally opened a crack, revealing a slightly cloudy, yellowish eye. It was Bailey. Jack knew him. Take the meat out and let me see. I know Luke Street well. I can guide you. Bailey stared intently at Jack, his gaze seemingly trying to pierce through the tattered cotton coat he wore. Being stared at like that felt like being a piece of tasty bait eyed by a rat. It was incredibly uncomfortable. Jack flatly refused and took a step back. I'm only looking for Tom. Tom, come out. The last sentence was shouted toward the crack in the door. If Tom were in the room, he definitely would have heard the call and come out. Unfortunately, he wasn't there. Lin Sure and the others stood outside, right in a blind spot where Bailey couldn't see them. Seeing that he couldn't trick Jack, Bailey's face darkened. He suddenly threw the door open and thrust a dagger he had hidden behind it straight at Jack. A cruel smile twisted his face. Tom's not here, so just give it to me. Having survived in the apocalypse for so long, how could Jack not be on his guard? He only mentioned having meat because he was afraid Lin Sure would lose patience waiting. Otherwise, with his cautious nature, he never would have said it. Jack dodged the dagger, simultaneously drawing his makeshift weapon and activating his gene lock to counterattack. A battle between two level 2 evolvers was straightforward. Even the winner would end up injured. Lin Sure already knew there was only one person in the room. He had scanned it with his mental power, but he didn't recognize the friend Jack mentioned, so he didn't stop Jack from looking for him. Seeing the two fighting, Lin Sure used his telekinesis to deflect the dagger thrusting toward Jack, while simultaneously controlling the weapon in Jack's hand to swiftly slit Bailey's throat. Bailey clutched his neck in disbelief, glaring at Jack. He couldn't understand how his combat experience had lost to this damn white-haired punk. Moreover, that stab shouldn't have missed. Jack also stared at his own hand in disbelief. When did he get this strong? In that moment, his speed and strength seemed to have surged. Neither of them realized that a third person had intervened in this fight. The fight started fast and ended just as quickly. Bailey collapsed, clutching his neck, full of resentment. Level 2 evolvers still had many fatal weaknesses. A slit throat was enough to kill. Blondie and Lin Siyuan, standing further away, still didn't know what had happened up there. Seeing Jack return covered in blood, both looked shocked. Jack's face was bitter, his eyes filled with urgent panic. He was about to tell Lin Sure that he had messed up and they needed to leave immediately, otherwise the boss of the house, Gavato, wouldn't let them off. But before the words could leave his mouth, he heard Lin Sure point in a direction and say, "Is the friend you mentioned among that group of people?" Hearing this, Jack trembled. He hurriedly said, "Just now, up there, I killed someone." "What? You killed one of Gavato's men?" Blondie pointed at Jack, so furious he could barely speak. Although most drifters were level 2 mutants, Gavato had over 10 level 2 mutants under him. Today, only the two of them had come here. Normally, it wouldn't be a problem. To avoid casualties and trouble with the people in the base, they always stuck together when there was no conflict of interest. But things were different now. Because they were guiding Lin Sure, they hadn't had time to stash the rat meat they were carrying. If Gavato came back, saw his man dead, and noticed them carrying rat meat, he definitely wouldn't let them go if he caught them. "You're going to get us killed." Blondie was filled with endless regret. "He attacked me first. I was just defending myself." While the two were still arguing, figures in the distance gradually became clear. If it wasn't Gavato's group, who else could it be? Seeing figures outside their house and running fast, Blondie immediately bolted. Bang! A gunshot rang out. The bullet flew right past Blondie's ear and plunged into the snow. Blondie had activated his mutant gene just in time to dodge the bullet. Gavato's gang had guns. Although regular guns were no longer effective against origin beasts, they were still lethal to level 2 mutants. An angry shout echoed from afar. "Stop right there." Blondie instantly froze in his tracks. Jack looked at Lin Sure anxiously. Seeing Lin Sure as calm as ever, his heart inexplicably settled down a bit. Very quickly, Gavato's group ran over. Seeing the person he was looking for, Jack called out, "Tom." A white man in his 30s with a very large nose saw Jack and asked suspiciously, Why are you here? Jack immediately told Tom about their plan for the day. Gavato observed them. At first, it was just a minor matter. Helping out an acquaintance was no big deal. But then, someone discovered Bailey's body. Boss, Bailey's been killed. By this time, Blondie had also been caught by Gavato's subordinates. The duration of his mutant gene activation had run out. For a level 2 mutant, the backlash was like falling into hell. He was thrown into the snow by 2 of Gavato's men, writhing in agony. Earlier, Jack had also had to overcome the side effects before he could go up and find Lin Sure. Hearing that his comrade had died a gruesome death, Gavato immediately raised his gun and aimed it straight at Jack. Jack was covered in fresh blood. It went without saying who the killer was. Damn it, Jack. Who gave you the guts to kill my man? Jack had already activated his mutant gene. He couldn't dodge a bullet from this close. He frantically waved his hands, explaining, I came here to make a deal with Tom. But Bailey tried to kill me. I was just defending myself. I was completely forced into it. Why the hell would Bailey try to kill you for no reason? Jack naturally didn't dare say he had brought meat to trade, which was why the vicious bastard had attacked him first. If he dared to admit he had meat, Gavato's gang would eat him alive on the spot. Unfortunately, whether he said it or not, it was already too late. Writhing on the ground from the aftereffects of unlocking his gene lock, Blondie accidentally dropped the meat from the bag on his back. Boss, they have meat. One of the men spotted the chunk of meat and snatched it up with quick hands and sharp eyes. Fresh meat. It was real meat. They hadn't eaten meat in ages. At this point, Gavato glared at the bag Jack was carrying, wondering what else was inside. Bailey must have discovered the meat and attacked Jack, only to be killed in return. But was Gavato the type of person to let meat slip away when it was right in front of him? Of course not. Anyone who could survive this long in the apocalypse was a ruthless bastard. Blondie had already unlocked his gene lock, so he was basically crippled. Jack had fought Bailey, so he must have unlocked his gene lock too, meaning he was no longer a threat. As for Lin Sure and Lin Siyuan, they had been standing perfectly still from the very beginning. The two were dressed in clean clothes and had Asian faces. Gavato wasn't completely oblivious. Are these two from the Chun clan base? Jack desperately hoped Lin Sure would nod. That way, Gavato and his gang would be too afraid of the consequences to make a move. At worst, they'd lose the meat, but they'd keep their lives. Who would have thought that a second later, he would clearly hear Lin Sure say, no. Jack's face turned deathly pale. He thought to himself, we're doomed. Sure enough, Gavato's face relaxed, and he burst into loud laughter. His untrimmed, overgrown beard trembled with his laughter. Get M. Good, good, good. Gavato's other men sneered, slowly drawing their weapons and closing in. Blondie, writhing on the ground from the side effects of unlocking his gene lock, could still sense the situation around him. He deeply regretted getting involved in this mess. Jack was about to say something else, but Gavato didn't give him the chance. He aggressively raised his gun and aimed it straight at Lin Sure. All right, so you guys came to my place to steal. You dared to steal my meat. He looked Lin Sure up and down. Seeing Lin Sure's fair, handsome face, a lecherous look appeared in his eyes. Leave the meat. As for you, chop off your own arms and legs, and I won't kill you in this kid. Hearing this, the thugs around them looked at Lin Sure and Lin Siyuan with malicious intent. In the apocalypse, it wasn't just women who were treated as tools to vent lust, but handsome men as well. Lin Sure had outstanding looks and an exceptional aura. Coupled with his cleanliness and fair skin from lack of UV exposure, he was considered top-tier eye candy in the apocalypse. As for Lin Siyuan, having been fed by Lin Sure for over half a month, he no longer looked pale and frail-like when they first met. His face was incredibly pretty and adorable. Lin Sure's lips curled up slightly into a smile. Lin Sure rarely smiled genuinely. Anyone who knew him understood that when Lin Sure smiled, it was time to kill. Swish. A sudden whistling of wind rang out, accompanied by the sound of tearing flesh and heavy objects dropping into the snow. In the blink of an eye, aside from Tom, Jack, who was standing next to Lin Sure, and Blondie lying on the ground, everyone else had their heads cleanly severed by something razor-sharp. Bodies separated from their heads, including Gavato, the guy who had just pointed his gun at Lin Sure. The gun that Gavato was always so proud of, the one he used to intimidate the surrounding thugs, didn't even get a chance to be fired. No one expected them to be so unlucky as to kick the thickest iron plate imaginable. Killing so many people this quickly was honestly letting them off easy. If it were the old Lin Shi, he definitely would have made them regret ever being born. But now, killing this many people, he couldn't be bothered to torture them one by one. Lin Shi controlled the short blade, making it hover in front of Jack. Jack clearly saw that it was the dagger he wore at his waist. The hilt even had the torn piece of cloth he had tied to secure it. He recognized it at a glance. It was his weapon. But how was his weapon flying? Fresh blood was still dripping from it. Even if he was slow to react, Jack knew that Gavato's gang had just died by his blade. He turned his head with great difficulty, glancing at Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan. The two hadn't moved an inch from the very beginning. With his level of understanding, he couldn't even fathom the concept of controlling a weapon from afar to kill over a dozen people in the blink of an eye. Just how strong was Lin Shi? Even the guardians of the Chun clan base weren't this powerful, right? Nearby, Tom was kneeling in the snow, his eyes wide with terror, looking as if he had seen a ghost. He stared at Lin Shi with eyes full of dread. His thick cotton pants were quickly soaked by an unknown liquid. In an instant, all his comrades were dead, leaving only Tom alive. Anyone would be terrified witnessing such a scene. But here, the calmest person was actually Lin Siyuan. He still obediently hid behind Lin Shi. Even seeing the ground littered with headless corpses, he didn't show a hint of panic. Can we go now? Lin Shi's voice pulled Jack out of his terror. Why yes, let's go, Jack stammered. He carefully took the dagger hovering in front of him, wiped it with snow, and sheathed it back at his waist. Ignoring Blondie, who was still suffering from the gene lock backlash, he went over to Tom and hauled him up. Tom was still in shock, his eyes vacant. Jack slapped him twice, finally bringing focus back to Tom's eyes. Take us to Luke Street. Tom looked at Jack, then glanced at Lin Shi. Trembling, he stood up and stumbled in a certain direction. Jack looked at the corpses. The clothes and weapons on them were good stuff, but he didn't dare take them. He reluctantly tore his gaze away from Gavato's gun and said obsequiously to Lin Shi, "Boss, this way." Lin Shi pulled Lin Siyuan along and said, "I'll give you 5 minutes. Take whatever you want, if you're coming with us." Jack was stunned, then overjoyed. Yes, I got it. Thank you, boss." He squatted down, tightly gripped Gavato's gun, and tucked it into his waistband. Then he quickly stripped the corpses of their gear, not forgetting the room key in Gavato's chest pocket. He hurriedly threw the loot into the room, locked the door, and dragged Bailey's body outside. With so many people dead, the stench of blood would attract origin beasts. This place would soon be swarming with them. Blondie naturally knew this, but his gene lock backlash still had a few minutes left. Enduring the pain, he looked at Jack with pleading eyes, wanting Jack to take him along. But why would Jack care? Just now, Blondie was the first to criticize him and the first to run away. Jack pretended not to see him and hurriedly followed Lin Shi's footprints, leaving Blondie glaring resentfully in the direction Lin Shi had left. In less than 3 minutes, an agile snow wolf with a keen sense of smell arrived. Blondie felt the gene lock backlash gradually subsiding. If he just had 1 minute, no, 30 seconds, he would regain his combat strength. As long as the snow wolf ate the other corpses first, Blondie felt he still had a chance to survive. Surely there wasn't an origin beast that didn't prefer fresh meat? Not long after, more and more origin beasts caught the scent of fresh blood and rushed over to fight for the food. Very quickly, on this snowy ground, aside from a few lingering bloodstains that hadn't been licked clean, nothing else remained. Lin Shi followed Tom to Luke Street. Seeing Lin Siyuan looking bewildered, Lin Shi knew the boy couldn't recognize where his house was. Jack looked toward Lin Shi, and Lin Shi gave Tom the address of Lin Siyuan's house. Along the way, Tom had sobered up considerably, especially with the biting cold spreading from his crotch. He felt like his lower half was about to freeze solid. It wasn't that he lacked clarity. Lin Shi was such a powerhouse that normally, he wouldn't even have the chance to suck up to him. Since the other party had spared his life, as long as he did a good job, he could keep it. "I know this place. Let me look for it. I'll search carefully." "No need. Just take me to the general vicinity." Seeing this, Tom could only nod. Relying on his memory, Tom led Lin Shi to the approximate location Lin Shi had specified on Luke Street. The buildings on Luke Street weren't tall. Right now, Only the church bell tower that once stood tall in the middle of the city remained visible. Everywhere else was covered in snow. Even Tom wouldn't be able to pinpoint where the house was under the thick layer of snow without digging up the house numbers. But this was no challenge for Lin Shi. Lin Shi used his mental power to scan below and quickly found the house number Lin Si-yuen had mentioned. He walked to a spot on the snow, pointed at his feet, and said, "Dig here." Jack had brought an iron shovel when he went out scavenging. Hearing this, he started digging without a second word. Not wanting to be outdone, Tom took out his weapon and dug alongside Jack. Lin Shi packed some snow into a bench and sat next to Lin Si-yuen to wait. Lin Si-yuen's face looked very tense, his eyes filled with both anticipation and fear. The entirety of Luke Street was gloomy and freezing, with no signs of human activity. Lin Shi understood what that meant. In fact, he had already checked with his mental power. There were no human corpses inside the building. In other words, Lin Si-yuen's parents had left. But where to? The world was vast. Who knew where they went? They could be alive, or they could be dead, and the chances of them being dead were very high. Words were nothing compared to proof. Lin Shi wasn't going to just tell Lin Si-yuen straight out. If he wanted to take Lin Si-yuen away, he had to let the boy see it with his own eyes, to let him give up hope completely. The digging took over half a day. If Jack and Tom weren't level 2 evolvers, they wouldn't have been able to dig so fast. They dug down to a window, creating a staircase as they went, and reported to Lin Shi, "Boss, we can get in." Lin Shi stood up and said to the incredibly tense Lin Si-yuen, "Let's go. Let's take a look inside." "You two stay out here," Lin Shi told Jack and Tom. The two nodded repeatedly. Lin Shi took Lin Si-yuen's hand and stepped into the room. The glass window of the room had been shattered. Inside, it was pitch black. Lin Si-yuen suddenly pressed himself tightly against Lin Shi's back. Despite usually being obedient and sensible, Lin Si-yuen was still just a 10-year-old child. He was terrified that he would see 2 cold corpses in the dark room. "Don't be afraid. I'm right here with you. Let's go in." Lin Shi took a flashlight out of his storage space and handed it to Lin Si-yuen. Lin Si-yuen took the flashlight, took a few deep breaths, and then, pressing his lips together, stepped resolutely into the familiar rooms of his home. Lin Shi observed the layout of the room. It was very messy, but not the kind of mess left behind after being ransacked multiple times. It seemed the owners had left in a hurry, taking many things with them, which caused the clutter. Every time Lin Si-yuen opened a door, his hope dwindled further upon finding that his parents weren't in the room. A fleeting look of sadness crossed his face, but it was also mixed with relief. If they weren't here, it meant there was still hope they were alive. "Do you need to bring anything else?" Lin Shi glanced at a shattered family photo lying on the living room floor. There were 4 people in the photo, a white couple in their 30s, the woman holding a white boy about Lin Si-yuen's age, and Lin Si-yuen sitting on the man's lap, smiling brightly. Lin Si-yuen's appearance was clearly different from the other 3. He didn't look like their biological child. However, judging by Lin Si-yuen's behavior along the way and his happy smile in the photo, he must have loved this family very much. Lin Si-yuen also noticed the shattered picture frame on the floor. He carefully brushed away the broken glass and picked up the photo. His eyes stung, but he quickly held back his tears. "Uncle, let's go." The two returned upstairs, then climbed out the window back to the surface. Jack and Tom were still waiting there. Lin Shi told the two to shovel snow and fill in the hole they had dug. They grabbed their tools and worked hard to fill it back up. Meanwhile, Lin Shi used his mental power, relying on the image from the photo he had just seen, to scan the city for survivors. But he found no one. By the time the work was done, dusk had fallen. Lin Shi prepared to leave with Lin Si-yuen. After asking Jack for the location of the Chen clan base, Lin Shi left the flashlight Lin Si-yuen had just used as payment for Jack. This kind of flashlight was redundant for Lin Shi, but for survivors like Jack, it was a precious supply. A flashlight sold on the black market at the Chen clan base could be exchanged for dozens of pounds of food. Seeing Lin Shi casually give away the flashlight, Jack was naturally incredibly grateful. He felt that all the hardship and danger he had endured today were completely worth it. Tom stood to the side, watching with envy, but didn't dare say a word. After Lin Shi and Lin Si-yuen left, Lin Shi released his mount, Demon King, and began a new sweep of the city. He didn't spare a single origin beast, not even the young ones. After finishing the sweep, He finally took Lin Siyuan and headed toward the Chen clan base. 2 days later, Lin Shi, Demon King, and Lin Siyuan arrived at the outskirts of the Chen clan base. The vicinity of the Chen clan base had already been cleared of origin beasts, so Lin Shi didn't need to sweep the nearby cities anymore. A dozen kilometers away, Lin Shi stored Demon King in his storage space and simply held Lin Siyuan's hand as they walked toward the Chen clan base. The Chen clan base, like other government bases, was surrounded by massive, towering walls. There were only a few entrances and exits for the base personnel to use. The gates and the watchtowers on the walls were all guarded by fully armed evolvers. Overall, security was extremely tight. Lin Shi noticed there was only one exit and 2 entrances. At one entrance, about 10 level 3 evolvers were registering their information. Notably, they were all white. The other entrance was deserted. Aside from an inattentive guard, no one was registering there. Lin Shi held Lin Siyuan's hand and walked toward the deserted entrance. The people lining up at the adjacent entrance, seeing the two heading toward the entrance reserved for Xia country citizens and noticing Lin Shi's skin color, all revealed looks of envy. There are still Xia country citizens outside the base at this point. So lucky. Once they get in, they go straight to the inner city. No need to do missions. Haha. I heard Xia country citizens even get assigned women when they enter. TSK, what a perk. If only I were from Xia country. Well, the leader of the Chen clan base is from Xia country, isn't he? We just don't have that kind of luck. If I were of Asian descent, I'd definitely try to see if I could sneak in. As soon as he said that, the person standing in front of him in line shot him a murderous glare. A few days ago, my buddy told me about some idiot who relied on having studied abroad in Xia country before the apocalypse. He learned a few phrases of Chinese, claimed to be from Xia country, and went to register. Guess what happened? The people around all listened intently. In the apocalypse, there was no TV, no phones, no computers. Hearing a bit of gossip was one of their few small joys. Haha, the guard asked that idiot 2 questions in Chinese. He couldn't answer, and got his neck snapped right on the spot. That's terrifying. What were the questions? Lin Shi, over 10 meters away, heard everything loud and clear. The gate guard in charge of registering Xia country citizens saw Lin Shi leading Lin Siyuan over and took notice. He shouted inside, "Captain, someone's here to register." Inside, an Asian man was practicing martial arts. The shout interrupted his movements. He frowned in displeasure. Someone else registering? Probably just another idiot or some ghost. Even so, he pulled back his fists and walked out to the gate. When he saw Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan, his eyes flashed. The Chen clan base was surrounded by walls, and each wall had multiple entrances and exits. Chen Feng was in charge of registering Xia country citizens entering the base at one of these entrances, and he was also the captain guarding this area. He was a level 4 evolver. High-level evolvers possessed memory and observational skills, far superior to ordinary people, not to mention Chen Feng, who saw more people every day than the amount of meat he had ever eaten. With just one glance at Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan, he discarded any thoughts of contempt. After 3 years of freezing winter, anyone who could survive with a child was extraordinary. More importantly, Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan walked with a leisurely pace, showing none of the tension or wariness typically seen in the apocalypse. They looked like an adult and a child taking a stroll in a park before the apocalypse. For Lin Shi, this was naturally due to his immense strength. Every vibration around him was under his control, and anything could become a lethal weapon in his hands. As for Lin Siyuan, it was simply because he knew Lin Shi would protect him, so he had developed a strong heart by Lin Shi's side. Chen Feng took the opportunity to observe them as they approached. Their aura, especially Lin Shi's, was striking. Both wore clean clothes, as if they had just been bought from a store. Lin Siyuan's clothes, of course, were taken out of Lin Shi's personal storage space. Lin Shi didn't want the kid walking next to him to be filthy all the time. A gate guard, seeing his captain's impatient expression suddenly turn serious, thought the 2 arrivals had bad intentions. Chen Feng walked over to the registration desk with a serious expression and sat down. In a mild and polite voice, he asked, "Are you 2 from Xia country?" Chen Feng's unusually polite attitude startled the guards beside him. They even began to doubt themselves. Was their captain always this gentle? But Chen Feng didn't know that when looking at the two people in front of him, one adult and one child, an inexplicable sense of anxiety welled up inside him. This feeling only ever appeared when he faced the head of the Chen clan. As Lin Shi drew closer, Chen Feng felt even more strongly that these two were far from ordinary. Lin Siyuan was fine. Chen Feng could easily detect the fluctuations of a level 2 evolver from him. But from Lin Shi, Chen Feng couldn't sense any origin power fluctuations at all. Normally, an evolver would only fail to detect another's origin power if the other party was of a higher level or just an ordinary person. Otherwise, how could he not sense it? Detecting the mental power of the registrar in front of him sweeping over him, Lin Shi understood his intention and released a slight trace of origin power. Not too much, not too little, exactly at the level of a level 3 evolver. Sure enough, upon detecting the origin power fluctuations from Lin Shi, Chen Feng's expression relaxed significantly. He told himself, how could an ordinary person survive until now? As for being a higher level than him, Chen Feng only briefly entertained the thought before dismissing it. As a direct descendant of the Chen clan, Chen Feng naturally knew that those who could unlock the level 5 gene lock were either exceptionally gifted individuals who had cultivated from childhood to middle age, or old monsters like those in the Li family. Lin Shi was young, looking no older than 25. How could he possibly be a higher level than him? Chen Feng. I am from Xia country. This is my younger brother. He grew up here, so he doesn't know Chinese. Chen Feng's thoughts were interrupted by Lin Shi. Hearing Lin Shi's clear pronunciation, Chen Feng knew he wasn't lying. Those foreigners speaking Xia country's language always sounded stiff and awkward. How could they compare to the smooth, natural cadence of a native Xia country citizen? But this was a mandatory registration process, and the necessary questions still had to be asked. Then I'll ask you 3 questions. Answer one correctly, and you'll be registered. If you can't answer, then be a good boy and go line up over there. Chen Feng pointed at the line of people over 10 meters long. Then he pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket. Lin Shi saw the writing on the paper and found it amusing. No wonder just a few questions were enough to weed out non-Xia country citizens. The first question was, what are the 3rd and 9th lines of the Xia country national anthem? Sing them. As long as you were from Xia country, it was impossible not to know how to sing the national anthem. The second question was, what is the next line after Palace Jade Nectar Wine? This question was also a classic inside joke among Xia country citizens, especially familiar to the older generation. Chen Feng chose the 3rd question on the paper. Listen carefully. Xiaolongnu went to the place where Yang Guo once lived and said affectionately, I also want to live the life that Guerre has lived. Question, what did Xiaolongnu mean? Lin Shi suppressed a smile and answered, Guerre refers to Yang Guo. Xiaolongnu meant that she also wanted to experience the life that Yang Guo had lived. The test consisted of 3 questions that only a true Xia country citizen could answer. If you couldn't answer even one of these 3 questions, you deserve to die. Chen Feng nodded in satisfaction. You passed. Now, let's register your information. Name, Lin Shi, and Lin Siyuan. Age, I'm 22. He's 10. What level is your gene lock? Level 3. Lin Siyuan peeked at Lin Shi. Where are you from? Lin Shi casually named a country that bordered theirs before the apocalypse. Not bad. You've traveled a long way to get here, so your combat skills must be pretty good, right? Any interest in joining the city guard? The more Chen Feng looked at Lin Shi, the more satisfied he felt. Reaching level 3 at such a young age meant his future was limitless. Lin Shi naturally declined. He had come to the Chen clan base to find the leader, the head of the Chen clan, to discuss eradicating the origin beasts. This was at the repeated urging of Lin Tianrui, who hoped he would drop by since it was on his way. Besides, Lin Shi was also curious about the hidden Chen clan. According to Qi Yun and Li Chun, the Chen clan was the most mysterious and low-key of the 4 great hidden families. The patriarchs or higher-ups of the other 3 families occasionally met, but the Chen clan rarely participated in joint activities. The current head of the Chen clan was Chen Tianxiong. He was over 100 years old and had been a level 5 powerhouse before the apocalypse. It sounded old, about the lifespan of a long-lived ordinary person, but for a level 5 powerhouse, this age was merely middle age. Take Li Hongli, for example. He lived for nearly 300 years, and right up until Li Chun paralyzed him, He could still kill an origin beast with a single punch. Previously, under Li Hongli's leadership, the Li family had clashed with the Chun clan in the Amazon basin over a high-level mutated plant. The Li family had found a level 5 mutated plant, but just as they were preparing to transport it back to the Middle East, the Chun clan discovered it and snatched it away. Li Chun said it was highly likely that the head of the Chun clan was now a level 6 powerhouse. Back to the main point. Lin Shi absolutely could not join Qin Feng's city guard, so he flatly refused. Being rejected, Qin Feng wasn't angry. Initially, he had taken a liking to Lin Shi and intended to personally help him find a place to stay. Seeing Lin Shi refuse so bluntly, Qin Feng didn't like being brushed off either. He pointed at a guard and said, "Take their registration and find them a place to stay." "Yes, Captain." The guard took the registration cards and led Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan into the city. The Chun clan base, like other government bases, was divided into an outer city and an inner city. The outer city was for ordinary level 3 evolvers. All level 3 evolvers in the surrounding area who had unlocked their gene locks could register to enter the outer city. Here, there were sturdy houses made of cement and brick and thick, towering walls, providing a sense of security far superior to life on the outside. However, living long-term in the outer city came with conditions. The apocalypse didn't feed the lazy. All level 3 evolvers had to complete a certain quota of missions assigned by the base every month to be allowed to stay. For example, joining Chun Feng's guard squad. The inner city, on the other hand, was reserved for core members of the Chun clan, a few lucky Xia country citizens, and those holding important positions in the base. Life in the inner city was much more leisurely than in the outer city, and most of the positions were highly lucrative. Take Qin Feng, the captain of the guard, for instance. He usually just stayed at the entrance. It was rare for Xia country citizens to register, so he only needed to keep watch and handle unexpected incidents. This guard intended to lead Lin Shi into the inner city. Security in the inner city was even stricter. After presenting the registration cards and passing the inner city guard's inspection, the guard led Lin Shi to a small room for housing assignments. Stepping inside, a dry warmth immediately washed over them. The room had no windows, but it wasn't dark at all. The warm glow of a fire illuminated the small room. Beside the fireplace, an old man was leisurely reading a book on a recliner. The guard quickly closed the door to keep the cold wind out, then respectfully said to the old man, "Sixth Master Chun, these are the Xia country citizens the captain brought in today. They're here to register with you." A direct descendant of the Qin clan. Lin Shi looked at the old man. He appeared to be in his 60s, but the origin power aura radiating from him was not weak at all. A level 5 evolver. Could this be the head of the Qin clan? Lin Shi was slightly surprised. No, that wasn't right. The head of the Qin clan was already level 6, and he wouldn't be sitting here registering housing for newcomers. So, the Qin clan had another level 5 evolver? Chen Lujia put down his book and glanced at Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan. Just like Qin Feng, Chen Lujia's initially indifferent gaze instantly turned serious when he noticed the details on the two of them. He furrowed his brow slightly. His gaze was sharper and more seasoned than Qin Feng's. He looked Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan up and down after taking the registration cards from the guard. Glancing over Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan's information, he threw the registration cards on the floor and sneered. "The identities of these two are suspicious. Our base won't accept them." The guard, encountering this situation for the first time, was a bit flustered. But these two were already approved by the captain. Who the hell does that brat Qin Feng think he is? I said no, and that means no. Chen Lujia was unyielding. How could the guard dare to question him further? He could only agree and say to Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan, "You two, follow me." He intended to lead Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan out of the base. Before Lin Shi could react, the old man, Chen Lujia, interrupted the guard, his breathing heavy. "Who told you to take them away? Get out. These two stay." The guard was stunned for a moment. Not daring to say another word, he hurriedly left the room. Outside the door, the guard stared at the tightly shut door, shook his head, and sighed softly. I thought it was rare to see Xia country citizens joining the base. Who knew these two would be so unlucky? Inside the room, Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan remained standing where they were. Seeing Chen Lujia staring at him, Lin Siyuan pressed himself tightly against Lin Shi's back. Chen Lujia stood up, walked over to the only desk in the room, and sat down. Using an interrogative tone, he asked the two, "Speak. Which family are you from? For the sake of the 4 great families, state your names, and I'll let you go." Lin Shi rolled his eyes. He understood now. Chen Lujia thought the 2 of them were spies sent by the other families. It made sense. Aside from his origin power, Lin Shi hadn't bothered to disguise anything else. His principle was, if he could get in, he'd get in. If not, he'd figure something out. So being discovered was perfectly normal. In truth, Chen Lujia wasn't entirely sure that Lin Shi and Lin Siyuan were spies from other families. After all, he had never seen a spy bring a child along on a mission. In the apocalypse, bringing a child was even more conspicuous than bringing an origin beast. This wasn't hiding, it was practically showing off. What kind of spy would openly infiltrate someone else's base to gather intelligence like this? With a brain like that, how could they be a spy? Lin Shi, of course, wasn't there to gather intelligence. He was just in high spirits, wanting to play the role of an ordinary person sneaking into the Chun clan base for a stroll, to learn a bit about the most mysterious of the 4 great families. He just didn't expect to be discovered before even entering the inner city. Since he had been found out, Lin Shi couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore. "My name is Lin Shi. I don't belong to any family. I came here to meet your family head to discuss eradicating the origin beasts." A surge of level 7 evolver origin power erupted from Lin Shi, startling Chen Lujia so much that he shot up from his seat. Even though Chen Lujia was 100 years old, having weathered countless storms alongside Chen Tianqiong, his cousin and the head of the Qin clan, and even participated in the struggle for the position of family head, facing Lin Shi's aura right now, he couldn't help but feel his legs go weak. This origin power, it's at least level 6. Chen Lujia himself was only level 5, and Chen Tianqiong had only recently reached level 6. As for level 7, that was a realm of legends. Chen Lujia hadn't even considered it. He merely assumed Lin Shi's origin power was level 6. As a former candidate for family head, Chen Lujia knew exactly what level 6 meant. Unlocking the level 6 gene lock meant a person had transcended the realm of ordinary humans on a genetic level, overcoming the physical limits of birth, aging, sickness, and death. From the moment the level 6 gene lock was unlocked, one's appearance and bodily functions would be maintained at that state for a very long time. In other words, the person's appearance at the time of unlocking the level 6 gene lock would be preserved for decades, a century, or even hundreds of years. The aging process would slow down drastically. The origin power within their body would constantly keep them at their peak state. Only when they were nearing the end of their lifespan would their body and face rapidly age. And the lifespan of a level 6 evolver could reach up to 800 years, true immortality. For Lin Shi to have unlocked the level 6 gene lock at such a young age was simply unbelievable to Chen Lujia. Sixth Master. Just as Chen Lujia was reeling in shock, Chen Jing, who was patrolling outside, sensed the powerful surge of origin power. Thinking Chen Lujia was in a fight, he kicked the door open and rushed in with a group of fully armed evolvers. The loud crash of the door jolted the terrified Chen Lujia awake. He saw Chen Jing leading his men in, their weapons pointed straight at the 2 strangers in the room. Chen Lujia thought, "Oh no." Instantly, his instincts reacted faster than his thoughts. The origin power within him surged. He dashed right in front of Chen Jing. Before Chen Jing could even open his mouth, Chen Lujia slapped him hard across the face. "Who gave you permission to come in here? You little brat, get the hell out." Chen Jing was dizzy from the slap. What was going on? He hadn't done anything wrong lately, so why was he getting hit? Sixth Master? Was this the great-grandfather who had doted on him so much when he was a kid? People in the hidden families mostly lived very long lives. Coupled with their large populations scattered all over the world, identifying relatives was very difficult. Hilarious misunderstandings regarding generational hierarchy happened all the time. Therefore, aside from direct relatives, everyone in the Chun clan addressed each other in a standardized way. For example, with Chen Lujia, except for his children, parents, or second-generation direct descendants, everyone else called him Sixth Master Chen. Chen Jing was Chen Lujia's great-grandson. Because he married late, He was the youngest generation in Chen Lujia's direct lineage. Because of this, Chen Jing had been deeply loved by Chen Lujia since childhood. Get out! Chen Lujia channeled his qi into his dantian and roared at Chen Jing. If they angered a level 6 powerhouse, no matter how many Chen Jings there were, it wouldn't be enough to satisfy the slaughter. Moreover, Chen Lujia knew that Chen Tianxiong wasn't currently at the base. If a level 6 powerhouse started a massacre here right now, none of them would be able to stop him. Chen Jing hurriedly stood up, his face, looking to be in his 30s or 40s, filled with grievance. He was the captain of the inner-city patrol. Even though he was just a junior in the eyes of Chen Lujia and the Chen clan elders, he was still in his 30s or 40s. He needed to save face too, didn't he? Before leaving, Chen Jing glanced at the people in the room. He had rushed in too quickly to get a good look, but now he noticed there were 2 people in the room, 1 adult and 1 child. Thinking about how Chen Lujia usually treated him well, but had suddenly changed his tune. Could these 2 have special identities? Chen Jing couldn't help but speculate. Someone who could make Chen Lujia this tense had to be either a powerhouse on par with the family head, or someone with a special identity or incredibly powerful backing. In this world, no one had a backing strong enough to make Chen Lujia this wary. So it clearly wasn't an issue of backing. That meant these 2 had to have special identities. Could one of them be Chen Lujia's illegitimate child? The more Chen Jing thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Otherwise, why would Chen Lujia be so agitated? This was an earth-shattering secret. The hidden families strictly forbade intermarriage with anyone outside the 4 great families. This rule applied across all 4 families. If it really was an illegitimate child, and they had accidentally discovered it, how could Chen Lujia not be agitated? Chen Jing left, his mouth twitching. No, he had to investigate further. He needed to check today's base entry registration list. He just wanted to protect his great-grandfather's reputation. He absolutely did not want to see his great-grandfather punished by family law. After being scolded, Chen Jing led his men out of the room. Chen Lujia turned back to face Lin Shi. Although his expression remained unchanged, the slight trembling of his hands hidden behind his back betrayed his current tension. My unfilial junior has offended you. Please forgive him, senior. Senior. In learning, there is no order of age. He who achieves first is the master. Chen Lujia repeated this phrase to himself, feeling a bit awkward. But he was from an older generation, having absorbed over 100 years of the Chen clan's cultural heritage, standing before a powerhouse who could easily crush him to death. After regaining his composure, Chen Lujia found it wasn't as hard to speak as before. Senior, please have a seat. Chen Lujia adjusted a chair and invited Lin Shi to sit down. Lin Shi didn't stand on ceremony and sat down. If he didn't sit down to talk, Chen Lujia would only grow more tense. Don't think Lin Shi didn't notice Chen Lujia's hands shaking like leaves behind his back. Lin Shi didn't know that the head of the Chen clan, Chen Tianxiong, had secretly led a group of people away from the Chen clan base this time. Before leaving, he had instructed Chen Lujia to watch over the base. Chen Lujia hadn't taken it to heart. Ever since he failed to secure the position of family head decades ago, he had started enjoying his retirement. In reality, the base's operations ran smoothly on their own. Unless an unexpected situation arose, Chen Lujia didn't need to do a thing. The area around the base had been cleared of origin beasts, so there was no risk of a beast tide. Even if the North American Freedom Base attacked, Chen Lujia wouldn't flinch. A base that didn't even have a single level 5 evolver. What was there to fear? He never expected his peaceful retirement to be shattered. Why did a level 6 evolver suddenly show up? How long had it been since he last fought someone? He had developed social anxiety. Chen Lujia sat in the spot Chen Tianxiong usually used, trying to make himself look a bit more imposing, his trembling hands resting on the desk. Senior, you came here to find the head of the Chen clan, right? Chen Lujia had clearly heard Lin Shi's earlier stated intention of coming to eradicate the origin beasts. Didn't this perfectly align with the family head's intentions? That's right. I represent the Xia country government base, and I also represent myself. I hope to cooperate with the Chen clan base to eradicate the origin beasts together. Lin Shi explained the survival war between humanity and the origin beasts. Chen Lujia wasn't surprised after hearing this. Clearly, he had long anticipated this war for survival. Senior, Since you've entered the base, you must have seen that we've already cleared the surrounding area. Lin Shi nodded and continued listening to Chen Lujia. Our Chen clan shares your views on this matter, senior. It's just that the family head led a group to the Amazon to hunt origin beasts last month. If you want to meet the family head, senior, I'm afraid you've come at a bad time. Although Chen Lujia didn't involve himself in worldly affairs, he wasn't stupid. If Lin Shi had malicious intentions toward the Chen clan base, Chen Tianxiong's absence couldn't be hidden anyway. Whatever happens, it was better to be straightforward. If Lin Shi meant no harm, being honest could even win his goodwill. Sure enough, Lin Shi looked surprised. He had come here to negotiate, not to kill. Because of this, he hadn't breached the Chen clan base's mental power blockade to scout the situation. He didn't know the head of the Chen clan was absent. Even without scouting, he could have easily mistaken the level 5 evolver in the base, namely, Chen Lujia, for the head of the Chen clan. Chen Lujia's composure earned Lin Shi's goodwill. Therefore, he politely asked, "Do you need my assistance?" To Lin Shi, killing origin beasts anywhere was the same. Furthermore, the Amazon rainforest, being a region with incredibly rich and diverse biological resources before the apocalypse, would definitely have the high-level mutated plants he needed.